Today, if it ever decides to load, we are going to be watching Elon Musk interview Donald Trump. I expect that Donald Trump, the space itself does not want to load for me, not even a little bit, but hopefully we can get this started up so we can play bingo. I posted it on my YouTube community tab. But right now, it says the space is going. One of the bingo things is stream crashes. Does this already count as a stream crashes? It might be. I was never super optimistic about this. It's not working on Safari either. Come on, thing. You can do it. We believe in you, Elon. You didn't waste $44 billion. Don't listen to the people that say you did. Well, looks like other people can't get in either. Let's give it another try. Okay. Well.
Name has become synonymous with innovation and...
Okay. Come on, X. No one really believes in you, but pull through for us. Hey, it's on the bingo card. We're going to say that's our first one. Stream crashes. Part way to bingo already. Hey, here we go. Let's try this. Details not available. Come on, Elon. Are you saying you need employees to run a website? Are you saying you can't just fire everyone and have it all go off without a hitch? Is that what you all are telling me? It seems like that's might be what we're being told. Elon just can't hack it. Doesn't have the juice is what I'm hearing. Isn't even an engineer. Well, it's 7 o'clock. This is when it's supposed to be starting. What are the chances this ever ends up working? How many people are currently being yelled at by Elon Musk? The number of people supposedly in the space keeps going up, but I'm not one of them. There's a new video on my D&D channel. If anyone wants to watch that while we wait to see if this ever works. Which it might not. This is Elon and the Don we're talking about. It does look like we're getting a repeat of that. Load. It says 122,000 people are in it, which is a lot, but like not for like a broadcast TV event, I don't think. And I mean, they're not even doing video, it's just audio. What are you people talking about, you fools? Did the space fully crash? Why does it not say Elon is in a space? Details not available. Down to 120,000 supposedly in the space. I'm gonna go post about it on Blue Sky like all the cool kids. Let's give it a hard refresh. 118,000. The number keeps going down, whatever thing is feeding that little display in the upper right. Oh, man. You know what this means? This means Elon gets to say whatever number he wants and just say, we had 100 billion, million, trillion people come in, and the servers just were 1,000 billion, million degrees. And so the interview had to be delayed for 88 minutes. Because it's a mess. Let's give it another try. Let's check Safari to see if I can make it work over there. Nope. Well, we are seeing what Elon, when he really puts his mind to it, what he can accomplish. Yeah, there have never been 150,000 people on any websites before. Never happens. It's down to 111,000. $109,000. X spaces is the Cybertruck of Zooms. Come on, Elon. We're all rooting for you. None of us are here to watch you fail, he said believably. How long should we give them? How long do I want to give Elon? They're not even doing video. He said they were going to replace YouTube. YouTube has done streams to multiple millions of people. Unless these are just views. Let's make sure this is the data we actually want. All most watched live worldwide. Yeah, that's peak concurrent. $8 million. And isn't even doing video. What a failure. Oh, it's back up to 165,000 people connected. And they're definitely real people who are definitely connected. And this is, presumably, this is working for someone, right? There's a chance Trump is late, but the Spaces was also started from Trump's Twitter account. So, like, that's what people are saying on the cool social media site. Unable crashed Elon Jeffrey Epstein. Has the new norm premiered? What an effective thing. If y'all are here for this stream, you should check out some of my many other videos on Elon Musk and Donald Trump. Those videos will likely work, unlike this stream. It says 210,000 people connected now. Okay. Sure. I think we can safely say the start has been a disaster. Okay, we're gonna pretend. So I used to be a data scientist, full stack data scientist, and I did a little bit of front end stuff. Let's at least pull up the developer tools and see if there's any details here on just how badly Elon is fucking up. Nothing obvious. Except for whatever this. Here we go. Nope, don't think that's what we're looking for. I do not have any thoughts on the new Borderland, and I have innumerable thoughts on the 2024 election. I'm not seeing anything here. I also don't think Elon is a very good interviewer. I guess they couldn't prepare for this. I mean, how are they supposed to know that, like, a couple of people would want to watch this? It was unforeseeable. Oh, interesting. Do we think Hassan actually has it? Let's see. I don't think he has it either.
Okay. I'm a little worried.
Doesn't look like Hassan really has it either. But he's in it. So we're gonna keep him open.
Dude, maybe it's hypnosis? Have you thought about that?
So we'll keep him open. Should we talk about the Cybertruck base model being scrapped? Should we talk about the Cybertruck range extender being like quietly pushed? Man, it's gotta be embarrassing to like. Oh God, I can't cover the Elon Jordan Peterson interview while we wait. That might take me out. I mean, I could. Is this the one I'm looking for? Was it on X? Do I have to find it on X? I don't know that X could handle that right now. Daily Wire is pretty aggressive on copyright. I mean, let's not mess with that right now. Load. I think I'm giving this like 10 more minutes, y'all, and then we're calling it. We're giving up. We're gonna give up. I can't watch it without making an account. Am I racist? Oh, God.
Stop! Stop tuning into the goddamn space.
Appears to be a massive DDoS attack on X. Working on shutting it down. They might post the conversation. Oh my God. Elon, you are such a fuck up. Oh, you want to know what excuse Elon Musk will make? Here we go. There appears to be a massive DDoS attack on X. Working on shutting it down. Worst case, we will proceed with a smaller number of live listeners and post the conversation later. Come the fuck on, man. What's an ops team? Says Elon Musk. A stiff breeze could knock over our servers, says whoever's left on the reliability team at X. Yeah, Elon fired all the people who dealt with like problems. They're all gone. They're fired. And so now when there's problems, this is what we get. No, this isn't an admission that most of his users are bots, though they may be. This is just him having an underprepared website for this right here. That's what this is. Yeah, let's print out the DDoS blocking code and have the engineers bring it to Elon. Massive DDoS attack. Of course, that's what he was going to say.
I feel like at this point, Elon Musk is a secret Marxist operation.
This is just pathetic. In case you are somehow unaware, the guy who makes electric cars now owns Twitter. This is disappointing for me because Twitter is the social media platform I enjoyed more than any other. It's the only one where I made new friendships, and it has done more for my career than LinkedIn could ever. I've met many friends, including one of my best friends and the co-host of my podcast on Twitter. It's where my writing first really got recognized, and it helped lead me to my current job. It's now run by someone I really do not like, Elon Musk. Twitter was one of the best social media platforms because it was relatively flat. You could say basically anything you wanted to basically anyone. I got to have conversations Social on
with
its
venture
Rumble
capitalists,
backend could
billionaires,
honestly
CEOs,
might have a better
regulators,
chance of handling
lawmakers,
this.
politicians, and John Does of every stripe. It was really liberating in that sense. It felt like some kind of
intellectual crucible, even though it regularly fell short of actually being that. There was this dynamic where if you were clever, created compelling tweets that shared new information, you got to have these conversations and
We
learn from them.
tested the
And unlike
system with
many
8
social media
million
platforms, which
concurrent
have this kind of
listeners earlier
dynamic where
today.
a lot of the success accrues to those who are most conventionally attractive, with exceptions. Twitter was
line.
always a platform that de-emphasized physical appearance. And many of the friendships I made were actually with anonymous individuals who, to this day, I don't know what they look like. Now, the other side of all this is that Twitter's relatively
ask
flat
Grok,
appearance,
ask Grok
its
what?
relatively broad rules which allowed anonymity and allowed you to say really almost anything, also made it a common platform for harassment. You can freely converse with just about anyone you want, but also that means on the platform, basically anyone can say basically anything to you. And many of the people there are assholes. A small tweet from a small account that was intended for an audience of their followers who appreciated the subtle joke could easily be quote tweeted by a much larger account with many followers who will absolutely never understand the joke. And those followers would often then run into the replies of the original tweeter, leaving them in a vulnerable position where they would get harassed, death threats. And this problem was compounded for women and people of color on the platform who routinely had a worse experience with a massive increase in threats. Now, like many things Twitter, this dynamic is both good and bad.
I've played
The
a little
quote feed
Honey
is often
Heist,
how
but
I ended up
mostly just
finding many
D&D.
of my favorite accounts because people I trusted would amplify people they trusted, and I could read their tweets with that additional context. However, now things for Twitter are really kinda in the crapper. Elon Musk purchased Twitter for about $44 billion, though of course that isn't all his money. He had a few other investors and got some loans. And those loans are the really nasty part because now Elon has to pay over $1 billion per year just to handle the interest from the loans to purchase it. This is a problem because Twitter has basically never been consistently profitable. They have struggled to build up a base of advertisers.
Elon Musk just explicitly accused the Democrats of being behind this DDoS attack on Twitter. What the fuck? What the actual fuck?
Advertisers who want to advertise next to the chaotic and random bullshit that made Twitter a unique and engaging platform. This historical struggle with maintainable profitability combined with the loans that Elon took out meant from day one, Elon had to make sure that he didn't just maintain Twitter as it was, but quickly increase the amount Twitter was making. What instead happened is Elon has made it much worse. Shortly after he took over, he began reinstating a variety of accounts, many of whom are just Nazis. And those who aren't Nazis are real assholes. This, combined with many of Elon Musk's other behaviors, has led to a massive exodus of
I
advertisers from
absolutely
Twitter.
am not
The
surprised.
numbers vary, but it seems to be over half are now gone. Plus, having all these new assholes around just mean that the problems with harassment have gotten worse, especially with Elon basically firing anyone in charge of actually paying attention to the reports people make about harassment or hate speech or things like that. This drives off many of the people on Twitter who were making compelling, interesting, clever content because they don't want to engage with the Nazis. So, Elon needs to pay over $1 billion a year just to cover the interest. His advertising revenue is way down, and users, Elon says they're up, but I think activity among them is probably down. And we can see this by Elon's own view count, which supposedly led to him firing an engineer for pointing out to Elon that he's just not as popular as he used to be. So how is Elon going to make some more revenue for Twitter? His solution? A new version of Twitter Blue, Twitter's subscription service that would now come with a verified blue check. This would cost $8 or $11 if you bought it on iOS, and Elon expected massive uptake of this.
I'm in.
can probably finish my video though. In case you are somehow unaware, a new version of Twitter Blue, Twitter's subscription service that would now come with a verified blue check. This would cost $8 or $11 if you bought it on iOS, and Elon expected massive uptake of this new subscription. When it initially launched with the new checkmark, there was a massive problem with impersonation. People using the checkmark to pretend to be people they weren't. Many had tried to warn Elon that this was going to happen, but Elon was not interested in hearing it. On the plus side, at least, I'm sure we've seen the massive uptake that Elon predicted that will help make sure that Twitter survives, right? Wrong. The information has reported that Twitter has convinced about 290,000 total people to subscribe to Twitter Blue. This is about 28 million in total annual revenue, or about 1/40th of the new interest on Elon's loans, ignoring additional costs required to service these Twitter Blue accounts, and does not even come close to replacing the lost advertiser revenue for Twitter. Elon has continued to double down on this Twitter Blue transition, gating new features like long tweets, a thing everyone was demanding, behind it, and has made clear his intention to boost Twitter Blue in the algorithm and use it as the ultimate signaling mechanism for Twitter, meaning everyone on Twitter's timeline is about to be decided by those willing to pay Elon Musk for a blue checkmark. This will almost certainly make the deteriorating timeline even worse, as Elon desperately tries to extract money from this platform. Meanwhile, Elon has fired most of the engineers at Twitter, and the result has been a gradual collapse of core site functionality.
Hey,
There was a
gradual
period a
collapse
few
of
days
core
ago
site
where the only
functionality.
way you could tweet was by scheduling it. Other people can't send DMs, API access has been cut off, Twitter can't pay its rent, and apparently now if you want to tweet a lot or follow a lot, you're gonna need to subscribe to Twitter Blue. Now you may think, well, maybe that's okay as long as Elon has worked on reaching out to advertisers and replacing that revenue. Elon promised that he would create a council to help oversee advertiser safety and make sure that Twitter remained that. He hasn't. This video is mostly just me lamenting that my favorite social media platform is dying, and specifically that this billionaire is able to go out and destroy it on a whim, basically, to make a joke. And beyond just owning it, he seems determined to leave it absolutely gutted and destroyed, bordering on unsalvageable for when the banks eventually own it because Elon is unable to pay his debts. I'll miss it. But social media platforms come and go, forums come and go, blogs come and go. The only constant is change. I'm hoping that this changes how many people see the self-described techno king Elon Musk, and it shows them that he is far from infallible, and actually, often, seems to have no idea what he is doing. Yeah, sure. Why not unfit for purpose? Can I separate these out? Oh. Someone's on the mic right now for Donald Trump. Does this count as an awkward silence? Donald Trump just muted his mic. That's hilarious. What a fuck up. Oh, come on, Donald. Hey, if he says it, we've got the spot for it on the bingo card. We will proceed at 8:30, they said, and post the unedited audio. This is them proceeding, apparently. Man, if they proceed any harder, whew. Well, I'm calling an outside chance that we hear them mention Boeing because of the Starliner issues and like the astronauts up in space right now. That's the one I'm expecting to see. Lies a free space once they start talking. Killing the game. I'm not the type of person to use threads. This is them proceeding for 9 minutes. Oh, these two fools. Personal channel, where we always remember that the rules are made up and that the rich and powerful are to blame. Today, we are once again talking about Elon Musk. Elon Musk has been promising that full self-driving is right around the corner for years now, and at some point in the future, we may go over every single time he's made those claims. But today, I really want to focus in on the more specific financial claims which were made when Elon Musk and Tesla announced the Robotaxi network in April 2019. For those who don't remember, the Robotaxi network was going to be a network of self-driving Teslas that would make you money while you sleep and that you would be able to hire through an app, like an Uber or a Lyft or anything like that. This was going to launch in 2020 and would fundamentally revolutionize auto ownership, rideshare, autonomy, everything. Before we really get into those financial claims, though, we're going to very quickly talk about Elon Musk's previous claims about full self-driving. Spoiler alert, it's not very quickly. I'm very rarely very quickly when it comes to these videos. And how they led up to this Robotaxi network. On January 6, 2016, Elon Musk tweeted, "In about 2 years, someone should work anywhere connected by land and not blocked by orders, e.g., you're in LA and the car is in New York." This would mean full self-driving would have been released half a decade ago at the beginning of 2018. A few months after that, on July 20th, 2016, Tesla released Master Plan Part 2, which explained the current plan for Tesla. There's a few interesting claims made, and let's review them. One was, as the technology matures, all Tesla vehicles will have the hardware necessary to be fully self-driving with fail operational capability, meaning that any given system in the car could break and your car will still drive itself safely. It is important to emphasize that refinement and validation in the
All right,
software.
hello everyone. My apologies for the late start. We unfortunately had a massive distributed denial of service attack against our servers, and saturated all of our data lines. Like basically hundreds of gigabits of data were saturated. We've
I'm not an
I
Elden
think
Ring
we've
player.
overcome most of that, and so it's now time to proceed. But as this massive attack illustrates, there's a lot of opposition to people just hearing what President Trump has to say, and but I'm honored to have this conversation. I want to emphasize it's a conversation, and it's really intended to just get a feel for what Donald Trump is just like in a conversation. It's hard to catch a vibe about someone if you just don't hear them talk in a normal way. And when there's an adversarial
Yeah, we're going to see a lot of talking in a normal way here.
in an adversarial interview. And this is really aimed at kind of open-minded, independent voters who just trying to make up their mind. So you can understand like what is what is it just like to have a conversation. So honored to Donald, great to speak. We had a great conversation yesterday. As you mentioned yesterday, if we could just record that conversation and post it, it would have been excellent. And I hope we can have something like that today.
Well, I think we will. I'm pretty sure we will. And congratulations, because I see you broke every record in the book with
What is he
so many
talking
millions
about?
of people, and it's an honor. We view that as an honor.
What
And
is he
then,
talking
you do want
about?
silencing of certain voices. Usually those are voices that have something to say
Say
that
free
is
speech.
constructive, oftentimes constructive. And
Yeah.
so we have to consider it an honor. But congratulations on breaking every record in the book tonight. That's great.
Well, thank you. Well, I mean, maybe we could start off with, the assassination attempt.
I should have put that on the bingo card.
Was an incredible thing, and I have to say that
Was an incredible thing?
Your actions after that assassination attempt were inspiring. You instead of shying away
Absolutely
from things,
pre-planned the
instead of backing
conversation.
down, you were pumping your fist in the air and saying fight, fight, fight. And I think that's, I mean, the president of the United States represents America, and I think that is America. That is strength under fire, and so that's a big part of the reason why I was excited to endorse you as the president of the United States for having another term here. Is that was just incredibly inspiring. But I mean, what was it like for you?
Not pleasant, I have to be honest.
Pleasant.
I said there was blood. I had
being
more
shot is
blood.
not
I didn't
much
know
fun.
I didn't know I had that much blood. The doctors later told me that the ear is a place that is a very bloody place if you're going to get hit. But in this case, it was probably the best alternative you could even think about, because it went at the right angle, and it was a hard hit. It was very, I guess you would say surreal, but it wasn't surreal. I was telling somebody you have
It's almost like it was
instances
real.
like this, or like a lot less than this, where you feel it's a surreal situation. and I never felt that way. I knew immediately that it was a bullet. I knew immediately that it was at the ear,
Yeah.
and because it, it hit very hard, but hit the ear. And I also heard people shout, "Bullets, bullets!" Get down, get down, because I moved down pretty nicely, pretty quickly, and we had bullets flying right over my head after I went down. So I'm glad I went down. The bigger miracle was that I was looking in the exact direction of the shooter, and so
I just had the thought
it
he
hit me
sounded
at an
like an
angle that
AI
was
Trump voice.
far less destructive than any other angle. So that was the miracle. That was
Yeah.
for those
Split
people that
second.
don't believe in God. I think we got to all start thinking about that. You have to.
Elon doesn't believe in God, or at least
I'm a
didn't used
believer
to.
now. I'm more of a believer, I think, and a lot of people have said that to me. A lot of great people have said that to me, actually.
A lot of great
But
people have said they're
it
more a
was
believer
amazing
after
that
they
I
saw me
happened to be
almost get
turned just
shot.
at that perfect
Yeah.
angle, and all because I put down a chart on immigration that showed that the numbers were so great. I love that chart
I
even
mean,
more
maybe it's
now
a
that I.
sign. Maybe
Yeah,
that's a sign, you know.
it's an
Come
immigration
on.
sign.
You
But
highlighted a serious issue, and
yeah,
at that moment,
that's right.
the bullet missed your, hit your ear, but missed your head. I mean,
Well, the amazing thing is that the sign, I said, bring down that sign on immigration, and it was literally about an eighth of a second where it would be good, and after that, it was going to
yeah,
be a disaster, no
I'm
matter
almost
which
positive
way
this
you
is
were
actually
facing.
Trump, and it's
But it
just
just had
the
that
audio
perfect
chain they're
angle,
running him
which was
through space is
exactly
compression.
at this shooter. Very sad situation. Such a sad situation. As you know, we lost somebody that was great
Like, I
Corey,
think that's just the
a
compression we're all
firefighter,
hearing, to
a
be
great
clear.
gentleman, a great trumper. He was just a fantastic family and a fantastic man. And a friend of mine came up, Elon, and said, "I'd like to give the family some kind of help." And I said, "All right, that's great." He said, "Do you mind?" I said, "I don't mind at all." And he wrote out a check for $1 million, gave it to the wife, and you know,
What?
she said, "This is really nice, but I'd rather have my husband back," which is a nice thing for
sure,
somebody to say, to be honest. She's great. The family is great, and we raised a lot of
yeah,
money for them
We all
and
just
for
heard that story,
two
right?
other gentlemen are unbelievable people. Also, they were hit really badly. They thought they were not going to make it, and they did. The doctors in the Butler area, I tell you, they were incredible. They saved the two, and they were really hit tough, both of them
yeah,
equally. And we thought
yeah,
my first question was because I heard bullets flying over me. I said, "How many people were killed?" Because we had a massive
1
crowd
million
there,
people,
a
supposedly.
tremendous
yeah,
thousands and thousands of people, and there was no land. I mean, it was all people. So I said, "How many people have been killed?" Because I knew there were other shots being fired,
sure,
and they said, "We don't know yet, but some people have been badly hurt." And I have to give the Secret Service sniper, they call him, or sharpshooter, but sniper,
yeah,
because he didn't know there was a problem. He's an extraordinary shot, obviously, and he didn't know there was a problem. And he was
yeah,
able to pick it all out within 5 seconds. And he used one bullet from very far away, I guess probably about 400 yards. The shooter was 130, but he was on
yeah,
he was on the opposite side of the field and the podium, and he saw the smoke and the flame from the gun, immediately recognized it, and immediately took a shot. And it was one perfect shot from very far away. And if he didn't do
yeah,
that, Elon, he would have. I mean, if he would have, a lot more people could have been
sure,
badly hurt and killed. So
yeah,
I have to
absolutely,
take my hat off to him because that's also a surreal. He's been with them for 23 years, and
yeah,
he's never had anything like this. And all of a sudden, he has to act, and it's a very tough thing to
sure,
act and to be shooting somebody. But he saw the gun, saw the smoke, saw the flame from the gun, very far away. I obviously has very good eyes. He's got very good vision, which I assume you
yeah,
have to have in that particular work. But he took
absolutely,
aim very quickly, and they say it was approximately 5 seconds from long range,
yeah,
one bullet. If that didn't happen,
yeah,
because the shooter had a lot of bullets, he had a lot of cartridges up
sure.
there with him, so could
Well,
have been very.
I mean
Here we go.
that's clearly he was very confident in taking that shot to stop the attempted assassination. But I mean, there does seem to be, I mean, some pretty significant failings elsewhere in the system. Like, there's just no way that, like, how on earth does a shooter get on a roof 130 yards away? Um, that seems crazy. I think most people people are wondering how on earth could such a thing happen?
Well, I view it as two ways. There should have been nobody on the roof. There were people,
Yeah.
because there were so many tens of thousands of people there. There were people that were seeing him, and there was one woman with a red shirt and
Right.
Trump all over
I
it,
saw the video.
and she's screaming, "That guy's got a gun!" You saw it probably. There's
Yeah.
a
No, I
guy
saw the
up there
video.
with a
I
gun.
mean, it's like I guess, I mean, for my part, and I think probably many members of the public are wondering how the heck are, you know, basically people wondering by it, pointing out there's a guy on the roof with a gun.
Yeah.
And they're seeing it, but somehow it's not being addressed.
What are you talking
That just
about?
seems
Yeah.
crazy.
Well,
Why are you
they're gonna
still
learn from
talking
this.
about the
Communication
assassination?
between the local police, who sort of had an idea, and then ultimately a man lifted himself up to the roof, could barely do it because he was pulling himself up, and
Yeah.
he saw the man with the gun. The man with the gun pointed the gun at him. He thought he was probably going to get shot, but he was like pulling himself up, and because of that, he couldn't get to his gun, and he fell down. Actually, very badly hurt his leg, his ankle. I hear very badly,
Okay.
but he fell down, and he did. From what I understand, he did say, "There's a guy up there with a gun," and the shooting
Shut
started very
up.
quickly after that. I think it forced the shooter to go maybe quicker. He was supposed to be a very good shot.
Yeah.
My sons, Don
The
and
fish
Eric,
was
they can't
this
believe what happened, but
big.
they said from 130 yards, a bad shot would hit that target almost every time. They said it's like in golf,
Yeah.
sinking a 2-foot putt.
Yeah. It's not a
No,
tough shot.
it's not a long shot.
Elon, you
The
gotta
Secret
segue.
Service
You gotta
person had the long
transition.
shot. He had triple the
Yeah.
distance actually. So it was a terrible thing. Look, it's hard. I have to say this about the Secret Service. When I went down,
Have to.
and I went down based on, I think they're screaming, but other people also, because people saw this happen. You had so many people. One of the miracles was that nobody ran. I mean, if a gun goes off, the crowd
Yeah.
control
What?
people showed us this. When guns go off, and it does happen in stadiums at a soccer match or some kind of a match, everybody flees. They call it a stampede, like cattle. But everybody, and a lot of
Yeah.
people get killed with those stampedes. We had
Sure.
more people than you'd have at some of these matches or these games.
So
And nobody left. You had a small
Trump's
group
healing
behind us in the grandstand,
is
and that was full. And you look at it as it was taking place.
is
And
less crazy than you
normally
might
they'd be
think.
running. They didn't leave. They saw that I was
Wait, why is it not showing
hurt.
up?
They saw a lot of blood, and they saw that I went down. And it's almost like they wanted to be with me. Well, out front, you had thousands, tens of thousands of people. As far as the eye could see, you had people in Butler, as far as the eye could see, and
Yeah.
and a lot of press too. There were many cameras on watching this. It's what makes it so different, because normally things happen that aren't good, but you never have a picture of it. Here we have all these cameras shooting it, so sort of amazing. But one of the interesting things was that you didn't have anybody flee. You didn't have anybody stampede.
Sure.
Nobody. And there were some people behind me. They stood up and they're looking like, I mean, I tell you, you want to have them in a
So
foxhole with you. I
yeah.
want to meet some of those people,
Sure.
because
Sure.
it's so different from what you heard. But so I was down. But the Secret Service
Yeah.
guys, there were bullets flying right over my head. You could hear them go whizzing.
This is from a
Yeah.
These
surgeon
guys
I follow and have had some
came
conversations
jumping on
with.
top
He
of
says
me,
the
and a
healing
young lady,
is
Kate.
like pretty
Uh,
typical.
would jump. They moved so fast, and let me tell you, that took tremendous courage. Now there was a lack of coordination. There was, obviously everybody understands that that building should have been covered, and
Yeah. I mean,
that was
I
the
think
big
that, like,
thing.
I mean, looking
Why
at
are they
the
still
aerial
talking
views,
about the
that building would
assassination?
be like the #1 spot for a sniper. I mean, it's like the, if you were to pick, like, what is the favorite, what if you, so if the goal is to assassinate, what's your favorite spot? That building. The
You're
roof of
right.
that building would be number one.
That would have been the
It's
spot.
Oh
like
my
you can ask
god.
for a better
No,
location. It's like number
no,
one.
that would have been the spot. You know what people think
Yeah.
is when the local policeman, who, by the way, you know, he really he did what he was supposed to do. He couldn't hold on any longer. And then when he got
Yeah.
his head just peeking above, this guy standing there with a gun at his head. And when he fell down, again, hurt his ankle very badly, but he was making the calls. But what happened is the firing took place very soon. So what they
Yeah.
think is that this guy ran to his site, which he had all planned out with the gun. He ran to the site and he started shooting fast. And maybe that's why he, well, he sort of
I'm trying
missed.
really hard not to say
He,
something that would
Yeah,
get
but
me a
got
that's-
me,
visit
he
but
from
it
would've
could have
Secret
been, it
Service.
could have been a much
Yeah.
bigger problem.
But he totally would have hit if you hadn't turned your head. So, like, you know, there was it was a very near thing.
It was a
So,
miracle. If I hadn't
um,
turned my head,
yeah,
I would not be talking to you right now. As much as I like you,
exactly.
I would not.
Yeah,
I would
Well,
not be talking to you.
I mean, be talking to me from another realm, perhaps.
Yeah, that's
Um,
right. We'd be talking from a
so-
different place. But it was a, you know, it was a very terrible experience. The Butler Hospital, they did such a great job. The doctors were so good. Everybody was so good. There was a mistake. If somebody knew, because people were hearing that, you know, there was just a bad feeling that there was somebody was around. You know that story now. It's been pretty
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
if somebody could have said, because they've oftentimes said, you know, like there'd be a lightning storm or something. Because I've done,
No, I just
think over 300.
personally
I think I
wish
did a lot
someone
more than
would
that, but
move this
we did a
interview
lot.
to
And
a
oftentimes
second
they'll say, Sir, could
topic.
you wait 10 minutes, please? Sir, could you wait 20 minutes? There's a storm overhead or lightning or something, right? And
Yeah.
that happens often. And this would have been a perfect time for that to have happened, but it
Yeah.
didn't get coordinated. That was the problem.
Listen, interviewing's really hard.
Well,
I have a podcast
it
where I
was,
do interviews. It's a
your- I
really
think,
hard thing to
your-
do,
your,
and I'm not great at it.
actions
Luckily,
in
Cass,
the
my co-host,
heat
is
of-
way better than I am.
fire and,
But
you know,
this is
like,
fucking
what
awful.
I find admirable there was that you can't fake bravery under such circumstances. The courage is instinctual or it is not. It's not a rehearsed action. And so I just want to say that I think a lot of people admire your courage under fire there. And
Well,
yeah, so
Thank you very
Yeah.
much. I appreciate it. I didn't think of it. I just wanted to get up and I wanted to stand up. I wanted to let people know, you know, I felt I was good when they were on top of me, covering me, actually, very much covering me and very bravely.
Trump probably has some
I wanted to get up.
dentures.
I said, I want to get
That's
up.
probably what you're
and,
hearing.
They wanted, you know, they have everything there. They have, they wanted stretcher. I didn't like the stretcher. And I knew I was hit in the ear, but I knew I wasn't hit anywhere else. They felt I was hit someplace else
Yeah.
because it was such a lot of blood. And they were sure that I was hit someplace else. And they were saying,
Really
"Sir,
sucks that the world's richest
you were
man
hit
and the
more than
Republican
ear." I said,
candidate
"Nope,
for
I was
president
hit in the ear.
are
I wanna
both
get up.
idiots
Let me
and
get up." And
sexual
so
predators.
I got
It's a
up.
bad combo.
And the crowd didn't know what to think. I mean, this was so.
Yeah, but he would have led
so
his
many
troops into
people, and
battle
they
if it
did- you
weren't
could
for the
see they were
bone
confused. They didn't
spurs.
know what to think. And I wanted to let them know I was okay. It was very
You know,
important for
people
me
are
to let them know
escaping
that.
from
And
asylums
they went
everywhere.
wild. You've seen the after. They didn't go wild when I
Yeah.
got up because they didn't know was I alive. You really couldn't tell. When I
We're going to
stood up
hit the 30-minute
before the
mark
hand,
since this
before the, you know,
delayed
the
time this
fist in the
interview
air,
is supposed to start,
uh,
and we're still
they
on
didn't
the
know if I was alive.
assassination.
Nobody did. And when I put the fist up, they were just relieved and happy and thrilled, and the place went crazy.
Okay, that's your
It
ending
was
point,
pretty
Elon.
amazing.
Yeah.
It was
Even if you have to say
terrible
this is
thing,
a
but
bit
it
of a
was
non
incredibly-
sequitur, but I think
incredibly
it's
moving, yeah.
important we talk about
Um,
whatever.
Well, and I mean, speaking of the sort of slide that got you to turn that.
God damn it.
saved
He's
your
going into
life, really,
immigration?
was the illegal immigration slide. Maybe this
That's right.
maybe this is worth talking about.
Oh, God.
It was
that slide. that
We're gonna
slide
get
saved
you're
your
racism
life.
in
right.
wall
No, the
quick.
illegal immigration saved my life. You're right, but it was,
I
I had to
know,
be at
that's
that
the-
exact angle.
I mean, that's a great one. saved by illegal immigration.
You know, the incredible
100%.
thing, though, when you talk about the odds, you had to be exactly at that angle. But the incredible thing is that
He's back on the fucking
charge- I used it less
assassination.
than
He won't
20%
even
of the
go to his
time.
base. He
It
won't
was
even do
just a
fucking
moment.
immigration
It's
to his
always on
fucking
my left,
base.
never my right, and it's always at the end of the speech. So
Yeah.
here we have it. It's on the right, not the left. It's at the beginning, not the end. And even the people that put it up, they were unprepared, and they did a great job. They got it up immediately, fortunately. But I looked to the right, and the bullet came
Elon
whizzing
has
by, hitting my ear.
admitted to violating his
So
visa
it was
before.
amazing. But
Elon has
when you think of the
been
odds of
an
that,
illegal immigrant.
and
Yeah, yeah.
you know
Not to mention, we're not getting into the
normally you
problems
wouldn't
with
use
that
it.
term
Normally
right
it wouldn't
now,
have the
okay?
thing. And
I'm
then,
not even going to mark
you know, it would have been a
racism
very
on this
different
sheet
story.
despite them using
It's
that
very
term.
much,
But like, Elon has openly
I
admitted to
say, an act of
violating his
God.
own
It's
visa.
a
He
miracle that
crossed
it
borders
happened,
using his
and
brother's
I'm
passport.
honored by it.
Elon has
I'm
broken a
honored
ton
by
of
it.
immigration laws.
Well, what were you about to say about illegal immigration
Oh
before
my
you were
fucking
rudely
God.
interrupted with
Well,
a
I was
bullet?
going to say how good the numbers were. By the way, we're going back to
That-
Butler, and we're going to go
Great.
back in October. We're all set up, and the people are fantastic in Butler. It's a great area. Great, these are incredible people. Like the three that, in the case of Corey killed, and the other two, the families are. I got to know them a little bit, and the families are great. But we're going back to Butler. And I think I'll probably start by saying, as I was saying,
As, yeah, as you
prior
were
to
saying,
being
exactly.
so
So,
horribly interrupted.
yeah,
But
yeah. So rudely interrupted by an
yeah,
assassination
so,
attempt.
but no, but the chart,
Some people have no manners.
Elon, the chart was just a chart that in my last week, we had the best illegal immigration numbers, meaning stopping. It was at the lowest. You've seen the chart. It's become quite a famous
Yeah,
chart,
yeah,
but that was the lowest
yeah.
point ever recorded. It was a really, I mean, I was very proud of those numbers. And then you see what happened with these people, Kamala and Joe. You see what happened. They just let it go. I had remain in Mexico policies. I had all these different
Trump
policies
and
that were so
numbers
good.
are slippery.
Guys like Tom Homan and Brandon Judd from Border Patrol. All these are all people that they've been on television. They says the best numbers we've ever had. We had so many different checks, catch and release in Mexico, not the United. We had catch and release in the United States. We had it in Mexico. We had so many things. We had
He doesn't
things
actually
where if
remember the
people, if
contents
many
of the
people come
chart
in there,
here,
they
right?
have
He
contagious
knows that his
diseases.
base liked the
We had
chart. He
everything
knows there have
passed.
been a
If
bunch
you
of
have a
memes about the
contagious disease,
chart
I'm
on Truth
sorry, but
Social.
we cannot allow you into the country. So we were setting
Yeah,
literally records, and all I was doing is showing that, and I use it sometimes,
sure.
and in this case, I'm glad I used it. I can tell you that, but they were fantastic numbers. But I'm going to sleep with that chart always. I'll be sleeping with that chart. That chart
Okay, we're back to the
was
assassination.
very important for a lot of reasons.
Well, I mean, would it be accurate to say that you're supportive of legal immigration, um, but but we obviously need to shut down illegal immigration and especially unvetted
Yes,
illegal immigration because and that's not the same as saying that everyone who's an illegal immigrant is bad. In fact, um, I think most people who are illegal immigrants are actually good, but you can't tell the difference unless there's a solid vetting of who comes across the border. Does that accurately
100%.
represent your position?
I say it
Okay.
very simply. They have to come in legally. They have to be checked
Yeah.
because look, Kamala was the border czar. Now she's denying it. Everything that I do, she's
Yeah.
saying she was strong on the border. We're going to be strong.
This
Well,
is the
she doesn't
chart.
have to say it. She could close it up right now. They could do things right now. It's horrible. No tax on tips, and all of a sudden she's making a speech, and there were not only tax on tips, but they hired 88,000 IRS agents, and many of them were assigned to go get waitresses and caddies and all of this on tips. They have a policy. They had a policy that
The,
they were
the no
really going to
taxes
go
on
after
tips
you,
thing
and
is so
were
dumb.
really
As someone who
harassing
used to get a
people
lot of tips as
horribly.
a server,
And then all of a
it's really
sudden, for
dumb.
politics, she says, she comes out with what I said, which I think is terrible, and I think it's also hitting them very hard. These people are fake. Now they're also saying they did a good job in the border. We had the worst numbers in the history of the world, not of our country. There's never been a country in history that has had
What
a
is he
catastrophe
talking
like this.
about?
We've had, I believe, and I think you believe this too. You hear 12
Yeah.
million, 13. I believe it's over 20 million people came into our country,
Yeah.
many coming from jails, from prisons,
He's gonna say insane asylum.
mental institutions,
There we
or
go.
a bigger version of
He
that
he
is
doesn't
insane
know what
asylums,
asylum seeker
and
means.
many are terrorists. And I'll tell you what, they're coming not just from South America, they're coming from Africa, they're coming from all over the world. They're coming from Asia, They're
Yeah.
coming from the Middle East. They're coming from countries that are uh, stupidly and horribly bombing Israel October 7th. They're coming from all over the world. And you know, you look at it's so sad October 7th because it should have never happened.
Yeah.
It's so sad when
Sure.
you look at Ukraine. It should have never happened. We have a
Yeah.
defective government. These are defective people, and they're not people that should be running it. But where
I
you see it the
reported
best is
every
the
tip I
border
got. I kept
because you had
logs. I was
you
very
have
good.
millions of
Just
people coming
saying.
in a month, and then she gets up and she tries to pretend like she's going to do something. She had 3.5 years. And by the way, they have another 5 months that they can do something, but they
Yeah.
won't do anything. It's all talk. She's
No.
incompetent and he's incompetent. And frankly, I think that she's more incompetent than he is. And that's saying something because he's not too good.
Yeah. No, I think it is essential to have a secure border. I mean, you're really not a country unless you have a
Correct.
secure border. And
And
I
secure
mean,
elections,
you
too.
know, yeah,
we
absolutely
know
secure
they're
elections,
doing
and
this, whether or not they
so
want to
it's,
call it
it's just
that.
essential to have a real border, or we can't function as a country, and our service, our essential services are being overwhelmed in a lot of cities, um, but as we were talking about earlier, I think having a legal immigration process that is smooth and efficient and done well, and speaking as someone who is a legal immigrant, and
Except when you were
I think
illegal.
I mean, like one way to think of it is, who do you want on your
Yeah,
team?
there's Elon
Um,
was doing some great replacement
who
theory
do you
there.
want on Team America? And I think we want to just say, okay, we want to let in people who are gonna,
Oh shoot, he's doing
be
lots of
great
racism.
contributors to our society and to our economy,
Right.
and and who do you want on the team? And it's not to say that, like in my opinion, actually, I'd say like probably most of the illegal immigrants actually are actually good, hardworking people. That's my opinion. Um, but some are not, and you just have this sort of adverse selection process where, if somebody's if somebody's like you know has a career in theft or robbery, I don't understand what's taken them so long to get here, um, because we're in such a target-rich environment. Um, I mean, why aren't more people who have a career in, bad things coming here sooner? Because I mean, it's a piece of cake to go rob, houses in L.A. or New York, compared to other parts of the world.
What is he
And
talking about?
and in a lot of places in America, if you try to stop the person who's robbing you, you'll be arrested.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's
It's
insane.
it's right. I mean, what's happening with crime, and our police are so good, but they're not allowed to do their job. But I have to tell you, Elon, I
They're
hate
not.
to say it because it's such a downer to say it. I hate to say it. I hate it, but uh, you have a lot of people that just shouldn't be. I think it's a much bigger number than you think. They're
I
allowing
think you're
again.
right.
They're
Yeah.
allowing people from their jails, and if you were running one of these countries where they're coming from, you would have had all of them. As an example, Venezuela, their crime is down 72%. They're taking their drug dealers. They're taking, frankly, their prisoners. They're emptying out their prisons. They're taking their criminals, their murderers, their rapists, and they're
Yeah.
delivering them into
But
the.
that's what Castro did.
Yeah,
That
well, he did on a much smaller scale.
yeah,
You know, it was a much smaller
yeah,
scale. But this is a massive scale because this is being done worldwide. But here's what's happening: crime all over the world is down. And wait till you see the numbers that we have. You know, this is migrant crime. This is crime that's going to be.
yeah,
This
And
is
I saw it today in New
absurd.
York where somebody was knifed with raped the girlfriend of a man that stood there watching in New York in one of the shelters and started
sure,
pulling out the knives, and bad things happened today. But this is happening every day. These are rough people. These are people that are in jail for
yeah,
murder and all sorts of things, and they're releasing them into our country, and they're telling them, if you come back, we're going to kill you. We're going to give you the death penalty or kill you. So they don't want to come back. But these are rough people.
yeah,
These are criminals that make our criminals look like nice people, and it's horrible what they're doing. And she's in charge of it because now she's trying to say she
sure,
had nothing to do with it, and she's such a liar because She was called the border czar the first day, and it was on the headlines of every newspaper. She's the border czar, and she never even went there. She went to one location, which had nothing to do with where the problem is. You know, she went in and out, I
Right.
guess, because she was
He
getting a lot of
honestly
press,
Yeah,
probably
yeah,
but
yeah.
does not
had
remember
nothing
the
to do with the
sanctions.
problem
Yeah.
is. But she was
Well,
the
well,
border czar, and the people
yeah, yeah.
can't allow them to get away with their disinformation campaign. Now she's trying to say that she wasn't. She wasn't really involved, and the whole thing is horrible. She was totally in charge. She could have shut the border down without him. He didn't know what he was doing anyway, so he wouldn't have even known
Yeah,
what happened. You could shut the border down; he
yeah.
wouldn't even know the difference. But uh, the fact is that she was border czar. But if you don't have to call her
Yes.
that, the fact is you could just call her. She was in charge of the border, and the border was the worst
Right.
ever.
It's simply not working.
No,
It's,
it's
I mean,
horrible.
whether it's by whether it's a question of intention or competence, either way, we don't have a secure border, and we have people streaming over like it looks like a World War Z zombie apocalypse at times. And sometimes you got to sort of wonder, like, is it real or not? So because you see
What?
things, you're like, is it real? So I went to the border at Eagle Pass, and I saw for myself in Texas, and I was like, okay, it's real. I'm like seeing this in real time. I actually posted the video like just live. I just flew there one day and just to see, hey, is this made up or real? And I'm just seeing people stream across the border, and I have to say, at least the people that I saw did not look friendly.
These
So
these are
people
people.
can look at my video and say, hey,
Yeah.
these people look friendly. I don't look super friendly. So
These are people that
um,
Elon would not be the same man if he had to walk across the street and look these people in the eye. These are rough people. These are really rough
What?
people coming across. And I know rough people. And these are people that we don't want in our country. And the caravans are coming in and they're putting and who's
I should
doing
put
this are the heads of
caravans.
the countries. And you would be doing
yeah,
it, and so would I. And everyone would say, oh, what a terrible thing to say. The fact is, it's brilliant for them because they're taking all of their bad people, really bad people. And I hate to say this, the reason the numbers are much bigger than you would think is they're also taking their non-productive people. Now, these aren't people that will kill you. We have enough of them, but these are people that are non-productive. They are just not productive. I mean, for whatever reason, they're not
yeah, yeah,
workers or they don't want to work or whatever. And these countries are getting rid of non-productive people in the caravans in
This
many
is
cases,
awful.
and they're also getting rid of their murderers and their drug dealers and the people that are
yeah,
really brutal people. And they're coming into our
I
country
want to
yeah.
at
hear him
levels
say
that have never
invasion.
been
He
seen
says
before.
invasion a
And
lot.
I saw an ad just before I got on the air. I'm walking over here, and I saw an ad by Kamala saying how she is going to provide border security. Where has she been for 3.5 years? For 3.5 years,
Yeah, no, no.
we have 20 million people
I
poured
think
in.
is
It's a terrible
Yeah, I
thing.
think this, frankly, I think this is a fundamental existential issue for the United States. And if we have another 4 more years of open borders, and it's going to be even worse with another 4 more years, it's going to be even worse than it's been for the past, 3.5 years. I'm not sure we've got a country
You don't have
left
a country
at that
left.
point.
Elon, if they get in, you will have 50 to 60 million people from all over the world, not South America only. We think of
We
South
already filled
America,
the
we think of
racism square.
Honduras and El Salvador, Guatemala, and Mexico, the four. But it's not that. It's everywhere. They're coming in from
Yeah,
everywhere. And I had to stay in
yeah, I think
Mexico.
this is a super important
Yeah.
point. Like people, it's like basically when I went down there, I was like, well, where are people from? It's like almost no one was from Mexico. To be
No,
clear,
Mexico
it's
less
it's just it's just
less
it's
than
just the
the others.
border. It's just the border with Mexico, but the people coming in, it's Earth, the rest of Earth, and America is only about 4 or 5% of the population of Earth. It would only take a few percent of the rest of Earth to overwhelm everything in the
We're
U.S.
already
So
overwhelmed, Elon. We're
Great
overwhelmed.
replacement
You
theory.
had to see the news tonight about New York. New York, and I love that place. And what they're doing to it is horrible. What they're doing to it, and all the courts do is they
yeah.
try and focus on Trump. Okay, then let's focus on Trump, who did nothing wrong. I complain about a rigged election. Elon, what's happened is unbelievable. You have from Africa, from the Congo, they're coming from the Congo, and 22 people came in from the Congo recently, and they're murderers, and they drop them. They drop them. They take them out of jails which is very expensive, to maintain the jails, although they don't do too much maintaining, I can tell you. But they take them out of jails, prisons, they take them out and they bring them to the United States. They deposit them in the United States and say, don't ever come back or you're going to be executed. And they don't want to come back, but they won't come back.
Sure.
But they're coming from Africa, they're coming from Asia, they're coming from the Middle East, they're coming from South America,
Just
they're
Earth,
coming from
rest of Earth,
everywhere.
basically.
And there are a lot of
Yeah,
really
everywhere on
bad
Earth.
ones.
It's just an everywhere on Earth thing, and it's just not possible for the United States to absorb everyone from Earth, or
Great
even
replacement
a few
theory.
percent of the rest of Earth. It's just not possible.
Well,
So
Elon, we're going to have
that's
just
yeah.
to finish this up. We're going to have the largest deportation in history of this country, and we have no choice. Otherwise, we're going to have a country. What they've done to our country. Think of it.
I forgot to put the
With
fascism square.
in Venezuela and in some of these other countries, crime is down 50, 60, 70, 80%. And you would be the same. You would have.
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
tell you what, Venezuela has not gotten rid of all of them. They've gotten rid of about 70% of their really bad people. Their jails are about 50% put into the United States. Same with other countries. Some
Sure.
are 30%, some are at 50%. They're all different. But the bottom line is they're all going to be at 100%. Why wouldn't you put 100% of it?
Yeah.
And they're doing it right now while this third-rate phony candidate. Don't forget, I beat Biden. He failed
Nope.
in the debate miserably. And, some people said, oh, gee, it's too bad. It's too bad he did so badly, or I did well in the debate. The first night they said,
Oh my
wow.
God.
One of the people at CNN said that was the greatest debate performance I've ever witnessed. And then 2 days later, they didn't talk about that. They just said he was bad. But that's okay. That's the way I get treated, and I don't mind that at all. What I can tell you is this. We cannot have a Democrat. We cannot have her. She's incompetent. She's as bad as Biden in a different.
Yeah.
Look, she hasn't done an
I mean,
interview since this
yeah.
whole scam started. And say what you want. This
Yeah.
was a coup. This was a coup of
Hey,
a
got it.
president of the United States. He didn't want to leave, and they said we can do it the nice
Yeah.
way or we can do it the
No.
hard way.
Yeah, they just took him out back behind the shed and basically shot him.
What they did with this guy,
So,
and I'm no
yeah.
fan of his, and he was a horrible president, the worst president in history. And one of the reasons he was so bad, first of all, the Israeli attack would have never happened. Russia would never have attacked Ukraine, and we'd have no inflation. And we wouldn't have had the Afghanistan mess, if you think of it.
Well,
And we wouldn't have had Afghanistan. But we think of
Well,
it.
yeah.
You take a few of those events away, and we have a different world.
He hasn't said
We would
where his
also
chair
have
yet.
No, you're.
inflation
Yeah.
was caused by oil.
Yeah. No.
Did he say
I
where
think
is
you make an
Joe?
excellent point here, which is that when other countries can, that are are thinking about invading or doing bad things, when they're thinking about that, they're thinking about, okay, what's the American president going to do, and do they fear the American president, or is it someone they do not respect and do not fear? And I think they would. They rightfully be. I mean, look at the footage of the assassination. They're like, okay, uh, President Trump is like, don't mess with me. I mean, that's like.
They're
I
back
think
on the
people are
assassination?
not
How
gonna
is that
they
possible?
obviously have not been at all intimidated by Biden, and they certainly will not be intimidated by Kamala. And you have to really think of that in the context of global security. That's that if the American president
That's
is
true. I'll take that as a
someone
where is
that,
Biden.
like evil dictators are scared
All we
of,
need is a free
that
speech
makes
and we've got a
huge
bingo.
difference to the security of the world.
So I had a good relationship with Putin, despite the Russia hoax that lasted for over 2 years. Just a hoax created by Hillary Clinton and Adam Schiff, some just bad people, just sick people, frankly. I mean, Schiff is a sick person. He's going to end up probably being a senator. It's hard to believe. The whole thing is hard to believe. But, they put our country in danger with that stuff, too. They actually, when they make up stories, and you have to fight your way out of it for a long time. But I know Putin very well. I got along with him very well. He respected me, and it's just one of those things. And we would talk a lot about Ukraine. It was the apple of his eye. But I said, don't ever do it. Don't ever do it. I shut down Nord Stream 2. That was the big oil pipeline, the biggest pipeline in the world going all over Europe. I shut it
Oh my
down.
God.
Biden came, and then they say,
Yeah.
I loved Russia. I was a friend of Putin, and I loved Russia. No, he actually said to me one time, he said, if you're my friend, I'd hate to see you as an enemy. I shut down his pipeline. The
Oh
biggest
my
pipeline, they
fucking
were looking at
god!
that to
Yeah.
fund, and this pathetic president gets in there, and the first thing he did, one of the early things he did, is he shut down. He shut down Keystone XL pipeline, which is our pipeline that would have employed 48,000 people, pipeline workers, shuts it down. That was, a massive job that Obama refused to allow.
Yeah.
I allowed it in my first week because it was jobs and it moved oil. And by the way, in a much more environmentally friendly way. It's underground. It's not a truck that catches on fire or a train that catches on fire. But think of it. He shut down the uh, XL pipeline, the Keystone XL pipeline.
Yeah.
He shuts that down and he approves the Russian pipeline,
Yeah, it doesn't make any
right?
sense. It's like it's inconsistent. Um, certainly but I mean, I think it's just worth emphasizing, to listeners that the immense importance of whether the United States president is intimidating or not intimidating, and
What?
how much that matters to global security, because there's some real tough
That's a
characters out there, and
fucking
if they don't
bad
think the American
philosophy.
president is tough, they will do
A
what they want
lot
to
I
of
do.
know
big
every
tough
one of
And
guys
them.
who
that
try
puts
to
that
project
it
strength
puts the
end
whole
up
world in
leaving their
danger.
Elon, I know
countries
every one
way
of them, and I
fucking
know them
weaker.
well. I know
Yeah.
Putin. I know President Xi. I know Kim Jong Un of North Korea. I know every one of them. And let me tell you, people will say, "Oh, this is terrible." He said, "I'm not saying anything good or bad. They're at the top of their game. They're tough. They're smart. They're vicious." And they're
Oh
going to
my
protect their
fucking
country,
god.
whether they love their country. They probably do. It's just a different form of love, but they're going to protect their country. But these
Yeah.
are tough people at the top of their game. And when they see a Kamala or when they see Biden, Sleepy Joe, they can't even
Yeah.
believe it. They can't believe this happened. All the stuff that you're seeing now, all the horror that you look at Israel, they're all waiting for an attack from Iran. Iran would not be attacking, believe me. When I was there, and I say it with respect because I think we would have been good with Iran. I don't want to do anything bad to Iran, but they
What?
knew not to mess around. Iran was broke because I told China, if you buy from Iran oil, it's all about the oil. That's where the money is. But if you buy oil from Iran, you're not going to do any business with the United States. And I meant it. And they said, we'll
Yeah.
pass.
Yeah.
They didn't buy oil. Other countries, likewise,
Sure.
you want to buy, you're not doing business with the United States. And they were at a point where they had no money for Hamas. They had no money for Hezbollah. They had no money for any of these instruments of terror. And it was amazing. In fact, there were articles when I was leaving, which is hard to believe, actually, especially when you look at what's happened to our country. Our country is so bad right now. It's such a different place. We were respected. Think of it. 4 years ago, we were so respected to a point where when I said don't buy oil, they didn't buy oil, but they had no money,
Yeah. Yeah.
and Israel would have never been attacked. Zero chance. And again, I said to Vladimir Putin, I said, don't do it. You can't do it, Vladimir. You do it, it's going to be a bad day. You cannot do it.
Can't
And
do it.
I told him things that what I do, and he said, no way. And I said, way. And it's the last time we ever had the conversation. He would never have done. I got along well with him. I hope to get along well with him again. Getting along well with them is a good thing, not a bad thing. I got along well with
Yeah.
Kim Jong Un when I met with President Obama just before entering. It's a sort of a ritual. And I sat down with him and we talked. It was supposed to be for a very short period of time. It turned out to be a long period of time. I said, "What's the biggest problem?" He said, "North Korea." I had that problem worked out very quickly. It was nasty at the beginning with Rocket Man and all the different things,
Yeah.
but all of a sudden I
Those
got a
some those
call.
those some
Oh,
those were some epic tweets, by the way.
yeah, they
Those
were
were
no,
like
they were epic.
absolutely.
Everything he said that he has
Those
a
were
red
some
button on his
epic
desk. I said
tweets, by
I
the
have a red
way.
button on my desk too, but my red button is much bigger, and my red button works. And then I called him Little
Yeah.
Rocket Man of Little Rocket Man. Anyway, here's the bottom line. All of a sudden, I got a call from him and they said they want to meet. They want to meet me. And we met,
Yeah.
as you remember, we met in Singapore. We met also in Vietnam. And I got along with them great. We were
Yeah.
in no danger. But
Yeah.
President Obama,
It's because
thought
they
we were going
respond.
to end up in a
Yeah.
war, a nuclear war with him. And let me tell you, he's
Yeah.
got a
It's not
lot of
true.
nuclear stuff, too.
Trump
He's
Exactly.
was
got
worried
plenty of
about that in the year
nuclear. He
2000
can
when he
do
wrote
plenty
his
of
book,
It's
too.
damage.
it's
So,
yes. I mean, it's because I mean, people like Kim Jong Un, they respond to
yeah.
strength, not weakness.
Well,
And
He and I got it.
if you
He and I had
project
a good
strength,
relationship.
you know, you could, yeah.
Remember I met him and we walked onto
Go
his
to
land. Nobody ever
therapy for
walked
your
onto his land
daddy
before.
issues,
I walked
both of
onto his, I
you.
wouldn't say,
Yeah,
let's
that
bring
was
up
cool.
Secret Service again. I wouldn't say they were thrilled when I did that. I walked onto his land, and it was an amazing period. But we were not in danger with him because of me. You know, I always
Yeah.
say that we have enemies on the outside and we have enemies on the inside. We have some really bad people in our government and people that are and controlling of the people. I mean, I'd mention names, but I really don't want to give them the credit. But we have some really bad, and I say they're more dangerous than Russia and China. If you have a smart
Real
president, a
fascistic
president that
vibes
gets
here.
it, we are not in danger from those countries because they need us and they need our help. I mean, we forced Obama, if you think about it, Obama and Biden and Bush to a certain extent, in all fairness, forced Russia and China together. And if you're a history student, the first thing you learn is you cannot let Russia and China align. But then they also got, if you take a look, Iran, and they have North Korea. That's, you know, they call it the axis of evil. In the old days, you had the axis of evil. Here we have a modern day axis of evil. These are powerful countries, very heavy nuclear, which is the biggest threat.
Yeah.
You know, the biggest threat is not global warming, where the ocean's going to rise one eighth of an inch over the next 400 years. And you'll have more oceanfront property, right? The biggest threat is not that. The
More
biggest threat is
oceanfront
nuclear warming,
property?
because we have 5 countries
Well,
now that
yeah.
have significant nuclear power, and we have to not allow anything to happen with stupid people like Biden. You know, Biden did something with Russia. There was no chance of him ever going in. And when I left, and then after I left, they started forming big armies on the border with Ukraine, right? And I looked at that, and I thought he
Elon
was doing that because
is an
Putin's a good
idiot.
negotiator. I thought
Remember
he was
that.
doing that to negotiate. But then Biden started saying such stupid things. For instance, he said that
They're
it can be a NATO country. Now, Russia, for as long as there's been NATO, has said we're never going to agree to that, and we go right up
Russia
front and
doesn't
say
need
that.
to agree
And
to
we
someone
did
being in
things and
NATO.
said things through this president with a low IQ, very low IQ. He had a low IQ 30 years ago, by the way, but now he might not even have a IQ at all. There's nothing on the board that goes this low. He said things that were so stupid that war would have been that war had zero chance of happening if I were there. Zero chance. He was saying
Yeah.
everything the opposite, and it's so sad because many more people have been killed in Ukraine than you read about. You don't read about how bloody it is and how disaster.
Sure.
Hey, look, just in the 2 armies, you lost 500,000 people, and
Yeah.
you know Ukraine's having a hard time. Ukraine, I don't know if you saw
Yeah.
the article recently, and it's true. You don't hear the true story, but if you think about it, Russia's gone. You know, Russia defeated Germany with us, and they defeated Napoleon. You know, they've been around a long time. They're a big fighting force,
Yeah. Sure.
and it's
Of course.
very unfair. And Ukraine now doesn't have enough men.
Very
They're now
unfair.
using young men and very old men to fight, and we're in a very bad position. And I'm not going to blame exclusively, but I can tell you I could have stopped that, and a smart president could have stopped that. It wouldn't have happened. But we had
Yeah.
a man that actually
Yeah.
made it more
Yeah.
prevalent. It was so bad. The words that he was using, the stupid threats coming from a stupid face that he was using.
The
I said, this
stupid
guy's going to
threats
cause us
from
a
his
war. He's going to cause
stupid
us. And let me tell you,
face.
Yeah.
it can
Yeah.
lead to World War III. That can lead to World War III. The Middle East can lead to. We have numerous places that could end up in a
Yeah.
World War III right now for no reason
No,
whatsoever.
I think you're right. I think people underrate the risk of World War III, and it's just you know, when you're looking at the risk of global thermonuclear warfare, it's game over for humanity.
Say
And you know,
multiplanetary.
it's something that people have, I think, after the end of the Cold War, people have become complacent about, but they actually have forgotten that there are currently a lot of nuclear missiles that have targeting parameters for the United States from other
100%.
countries.
And one of the things
And
we're going to do is
it's
we're going to
yeah.
build an Iron Dome over us. You know, Israel has it.
Oh
We're going
my.
to have the best Iron Dome in the world. We need it, and we're
What?
going to make it
Oh
all in the
my.
United States. But we're going to have protection. because it
What
just
does
takes
he
one
mean?
maniac to, start something. We're going to have protection, and we're going to have. Why shouldn't we have an Iron Dome? Israel
What do
has
you
one.
what do you mean?
Some
We've
other
got
places
Yeah.
have one that nobody even knows about, frankly. But
what?
Israel has it. We're going to have an Iron Dome. But with all of that being said, to
We
me
have
that's
the US
so important,
Navy.
the most important. But with all of that being said, the election's coming up, and the people want to hear about the economy and the fact that they
Absolutely, sure.
can't buy groceries because they don't have enough money to buy groceries. The inflation has killed them. Food prices are up 50, 60, even 100% in some cases. And this stupid administration allowed this to happen. And it's a shame. And that's the thing that people most care about, in my opinion. They care about the
That's
border a
not the
lot.
wall. We all know
And we've
that's not the
discussed the border
wall.
at great length. It's nice to have a
Yeah, yeah.
forum like this where I
It's
can
not a
discuss
wall.
something at length. And by the way, you think Biden could do this interview? Do you think that Kamala could do this interview? They would take a pass on
No, they
you.
cannot.
So they don't need Elon. They don't need Elon screaming out questions. It's
Screaming
really
out
sad
questions.
when you think that somebody that does this for a living can't answer a question or is afraid to do an interview. And in her case, with a very friendly interview, she's got all friendly interviewers. It's pretty
What?
sad.
Yes,
But the
absolutely.
big thing now is the
Well,
economy, Elon.
yeah,
And as much as
yeah.
I mean, I view nuclear as the single most important thing, but a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't understand that. But it doesn't have to. If I understand it, that's all you need. Because if I was president, you're not going to have that kind of a problem. But the thing that they really is making them angry is what Kamala and Biden have allowed to happen to the economy. It's a disaster with inflation. The inflation, it
Yeah.
doesn't matter what you make. The inflation is eating you alive. If you're a worker or if you're just a middle income person, you can't afford. 4 years ago, 5 years ago, people were saving a lot of money. Today, they're using
Yeah.
all their money and borrowing money just to live. It's a horrible thing
Right.
that's happening, and we'll end that
Well, I think
quickly.
a lot of yeah, a lot of people just don't understand where inflation comes from. Inflation
Oh
comes
yes,
from
let's
government
let these two
overspending
explain it.
because the checks never bounce when it's written by the government. So if the government spends far more than it brings in,
Oh
that
my
increases
fucking
the money
god.
supply, and if the money supply increases faster than the rate of goods and services,
That's right.
that's inflation. Um, so really, we need to
Oh
have
my god.
we need to reduce our government spending, and we need to re-examine. I think we need like
What
a government
weird
efficiency
combination of
commission to
economics
say
is
like,
he
hey,
trying to
where are we
stitch
spending money
together
that's
here?
sensible? Where is it not
Right.
sensible? And we need to live within our means. We're currently adding, I think, $1 trillion to the deficit roughly
Right.
every 100 days.
That's right.
And the interest payments on the national debt have now exceed the defense budget. It's on the order of $1 trillion,
It's interest.
and it keeps
Yeah, I
growing.
rebuilt our military, largely rebuilt our military, did a great job on it, which was so important. We had jets, we had fighters that were, and bombers that were 70 years old. And we did a great job in that. Then by the way, then we gave 85 billion of it back to Afghanistan, if you can believe it. We gave them 85 billion. They're one of the largest sellers
Yeah.
of military equipment in the world. They're selling what we gave them. That was one of the most embarrassing days in the history of our country. But if you
It's
think
also
about,
funny to
let's
have
go back
Elon
to
talking about the deficit with
the
how much
economy.
Trump
We
raised
have
the
to bring
deficit,
energy
Yeah.
right?
prices down.
Like we're supposed to
Energy started
pretend
it. The
Republicans
price
cut
of
the deficit,
gasoline.
but very
Now, your cars
often
don't
they
require too much
increase the
gasoline, so
deficit and do
you
more
have a
deficit
good, and
spending.
you do make
But
a
they
great
get to
product. I have to say,
pretend
I
that
have to
they're
be honest with you.
austerity
That doesn't
seekers
mean everybody
because they
should have
got
an
social
electric car,
services while
but
still
these are
somehow
minor
finding a
details.
way to
But
increase
your
the
product
deficit.
is incredible. But the
Thank you.
gasoline, Elon, is the cost of energy. Not only gasoline, it's the cost of heating your house and cooling your house. That has
Sure.
to come down. It's gone up 100%, 150, and 200%, and that has to come down. When that comes down, and we're going to
Yeah.
drill, baby, drill. They stopped drilling, and then they went back to drilling because they went back to the Trump policy. But if they won the day after they get into office, this country will go out of business because they're going to go to an energy policy that's not sustainable. Wind and different things. You're not going to have anything.
Yeah.
And I know you're a big fan of the AI, and I have to say
Yeah.
that AI, and this is shocking to me, but AI requires twice the energy that the country already produces for everything. So you're going to have to build. We're going to have to build a lot of energy if our country will be competitive with China, because that's our primary competitor for this on the AI. You're
Sure.
going to need a lot of
Well, I mean,
electricity. You're going to need tremendous
yeah,
electricity, like almost double what we produce now for the whole country, if you can believe it.
sure. Well, just going, back to this, like this basic thing, which that people try to make it sound complicated, but it's not. But inflation is caused by government
Right.
overspending.
Oh my God,
Um,
Elon's back
would
to
would
his
you
shitty
would you agree
inflation model.
that we need to take a look at government
Yes.
spending and have perhaps a government efficiency commission that just tries to make the spending sensible and so the country lives within its means, just like a
The
person does.
waste is incredible, and nobody
It
negotiates
is.
prices. You used to have a lot of people making jets, and you end up with two companies, and they'll probably try and merge at some point. I mean, I went through it like Air Force, just a thing like Air Force One. One of the first documents they asked me to sign, a general walks in, sir, would you please sign this document? And what is it? Air Force One. That's with Boeing, which is basically
Hey,
two planes, two 747s. And the price was
Yeah.
$5.7 billion for two planes. Now they're
Wow.
highly sophisticated.
That's
They're
insane.
even nicer than your plane, okay? But much more sophisticated. They're very, I won't say what's on it, but they got a lot of stuff on it. Anyway, but it's
Sure.
5.7. I,
That's a crazy
it's a
number.
crazy number, but I said, I'm not going to pay 5.7. I'm not going to do it. I said, who made the deal? Obama and his people. I said, well, then I know the deal's no good. I'm not going to do it. And over a course of about 4 weeks, by my saying I'm not going to do it, I got the price reduced by $1.6 billion for the exact same plane, other than we had a nicer paint job, if you want to know the truth. But for the exact same plane, I saved one. And I said to Boeing, man, you guys must make a lot of money if you can reduce the price by that. But now what I do hear is that they're going back to the Biden administration and wanting big cost overruns, because they see these dopey suckers in there, and they'll end up getting some of the money back. But I shaved it by $1.6 billion for the exact same plane. And you can now take that and multiply that out times thousands of other
Exactly.
items. And
Multiply it by
yeah,
a
the
zillion,
numbers are
and yeah.
astronomical. I agree with you.
Well, I mean, if so, I think it would be great to just have a government efficiency commission that takes a look at these
a
things
government
and
efficiency
just
commission.
ensures that the taxpayer money, the taxpayers' hard-earned money, is spent in a good way. And I'd be happy to help out on such a commission
I'd love
if
it.
it were formed.
Well,
Oh my
you're the
fucking
greatest
God.
cutter. I mean, I look at what you do. You walk in and you just say, "You want to quit?" They go on strike. I won't mention the name of the company, but they go on strike, and you say, "That's okay. You're all gone. You're all gone." So every one of you is gone, and you are the greatest. You would be very good. Oh, you would love it. But if you look at Argentina.
Well, I'd be happy to
Yeah, by
help
the way,
out.
congratulations. I
Yeah.
just looked at the number of people that are listening to you and I chat. We'll call it a chat. But
Yeah.
congratulations. This is very good. I mean, it's great. And you're an interesting character. The new head of a place called Argentina, and he's a big,
Oh
Malaysia.
my
he's
God.
great. And
Yeah.
he's a big MAGA fan, that he ran on MAGA. And he took it to an extreme too. He ran on MAGA, and I hear he's doing really a terrific job. It's called Make Argentina Great Again. It worked out perfectly. He came in, he bought a lot of hats, he brought over, but he's doing a big job. He really cut. And I'm hearing
Yeah.
they're starting to do pretty well. Inflation's getting down. They had like
Yes, exactly.
2,000%. And they had inflation like not normal inflation. They had the real deal. But we're going to
Yeah.
have that pretty soon. I think we
Yeah.
have the worst inflation we've had in 100 years. They say it's
Nope.
48 years. I don't believe it. I think we have the worst. They
Yeah.
don't include a lot of the items that should be included.
Oh, good. We're doing
You know.
shadow stats.
Yeah. Well, it's just from government overspending and not spending taxpayer money
Yeah.
effectively, and having just like so many departments you can't even name them all, and what Malay is doing is he's cutting government spending, he's simplifying things, he's having putting in regulations that make sense, and we're Argentina overnight is
Awful.
experiencing a giant improvement
That's right.
in prosperity, but it's also a lesson for the United States, which is that Argentina used to be one of the most prosperous countries in the world,
Right.
in the like in the 30s, 40s, and because of bad government policy, it ruined the
Argent-
country.
Duh.
And if you take Venezuela, for example, Venezuela should be incredibly prosperous. They have phenomenal reserves of everything, oil, everything, and it should be prosperous. But if the government's wrong, it impoverishes the people. And so I think we should not be complacent in the United States in thinking that and taking our prosperity for granted, because if with bad government policy we can run the country into the ground, and that's just something people should bear in mind. Don't take prosperity for granted.
Well, think of education. So we're ranked at the bottom of every list of the top 40. We're ranked number 40, number 38. Uh, Norway, uh, Switzerland, Sweden, different countries are ranked good. Actually, China's pretty close to the top. They're a top 6 or 7. But we're ranked at the bottom, almost at the bottom, 38, 39, 40. In other words, horrible. And yet we spend more per pupil than any other country in the world. So we spend more. And what I'm going to do, one of the first acts, and this is where I need an Elon Musk. I need somebody that has a lot of strength and courage and smarts. I want to close up Department of Education, move education back to the states, where
This
Yeah.
is in Project
where states like
2025.
Iowa, where states like Idaho, not every state will do great because states that basically aren't doing good now. You look at Gavin Newsom, the governor of California. He's
Charter
terrible. He
schools
does
are
a
one of
terrible
the
job.
like.
So he's not going to do great with
There's a
education.
couple things they
But
want. They want to get rid of the Department of
50,
Education. They want
I would
charter
bet that
schools to
35 would do
subsidize
great.
religious private
And
schools, and there's a
15
good
of them,
chance they get
or
both. If Trump
20 of
wins.
them will be as good as Norway. Norway's considered great. You can name them. I mean, they're so good. Some of
Yeah.
these countries are so good. But if you go into some of these really well-run states, we have states that don't know what debt is. We have states that have low taxes, no debt, everybody working. They're really well run.
Sure.
And maybe they have certain advantages in terms of location, in terms of the land or the sun, and the water and the whole thing. There are a lot of advantages that some people have. But if you moved education back to the 50, you'll have some that won't do well, but they'll actually be forced to do better because it'll be a pretty bad situation.
Yeah.
But if you think
Well,
about it,
yeah.
What
you'll
does
have
that
some of
mean?
these
They'll be
states. I'll bet
forced
you'd
to
have
do
30,
better.
35 states. It'll be much better. And you know what it'll cost? Less than
Yeah.
half what it is in Washington. And
Yeah.
these people don't care
Well,
about the
yeah.
students in these, faraway states. And it'd be unbelievable.
Yeah. I think you're
Yeah.
making a good point
Oh
in that
yeah.
if
Yeah.
the states have to if each state has to compete against other states, then
But
people will
That's
naturally
right.
move
people can't
to states
move
where it's
for
better.
Well, like
free.
California, as we said, it's a badly run state. I could go through. I got so many friends that are in those states, even if they're Democrats. I hate to mention certain
Oh
states,
my
but
God.
Illinois is badly run with Pritzker. He's a real loser. But
Yeah.
but some of these places are just
Pritzker. My God.
badly run. But
Pritzker's
it's
pretty
almost going to force
popular.
them to
Trump,
run
be
better,
careful what you
and they
say.
won't do a good at initially. But you're not going to
We're
do
just
worse
gonna
than you're doing right
abandon
now. And
thousands
I
of
would say
students.
that
Yeah.
Children
you
don't
would
need
cut
to
your
know
costs by
things in
50 or
Trump's
60%.
America.
And you'd have a little
Yeah. Yeah.
monitor. You want to make sure they're teaching English as an example. Give us a
Yeah.
little English, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Right?
No, but I mean,
Who's gonna do the monitoring,
some of
Trump?
these governors are doing so badly. I mean, they got so many people moving out of their state. They should get U-Haul Salesman of the Year award because they're driving
Ah,
so much U-Haul
It's
sales.
actually
Because
amazing.
good
people moving out.
one.
Isn't it amazing to you as a businessman that they can even survive? Like Illinois, so many people are leaving, and you wonder, how do they survive? I mean, how do they survive? Uh, I saw where you left California and you moved to Texas. Texas does a great job. But, I
Yeah.
mean, I just wonder, how do these states survive when big businesses, a big oil company just left California, as you know, and they moved to Texas. How do these big states survive when they lose so many businesses and their taxes are already really high? The taxes are among the highest
Yeah.
taxes. You almost wonder, how do they continue on? And in many cases, the governors don't do a good job and they're crime-ridden places. You wonder, how do they continue to just go on? It's not
Well,
a good
I think there's
situation.
I mean, I think the
idiots.
only thing that's going to force some of these states to change is if they risk bankruptcy and they're not getting bailed out by the federal
Right.
government.
Right.
What?
Well,
Hmm.
you're
That's
you're
the
going to
only thing
have
that's going to
that.
get them to change.
You
Yeah,
remember the
California
area
on the
in
verge of
California where they had
bankruptcy.
that,
What are
where
you
I guess
talking
somebody
about?
had sticky fingers and they stole a lot of money, and they went into a form of chapter, and it was very
Yeah,
nasty
yeah.
for a
They
period of
went
time. But
into
now
a
it's
form
probably
of
the most
chapter.
popular place in all of California. So at some point, something like that may have to happen. But the problem is, you can't penalize people that loan money to the state when you have incompetent people like a
What?
Pritzker. Look, the family didn't want him in the family business, and then he ends up being governor of Illinois. So what is he going to be? Is he going to be a great governor? And you have people. I could name every one of them. I got to know every one of
Yep.
these, and some are very good, and some are just horrible.
Well, I think that I mean the larger point here, too, as you're saying, like a lot of people are concerned about the economy, a lot of people are concerned about inflation, and inflation is effectively a tax on people that save money
Yeah.
and for people that are working day to day.
Hey, hey, hey!
It's just a form of taxation,
It's not a form of
and if
taxation
we
on
can solve the government
anyone
spending
who has
problem, we'll
debt.
solve
If
the
you've got
inflation
student
problem, which
loans,
means people will have a
mortgage
better
loans,
standard of
things
living.
like that,
That's really the
inflation
big
Well, the
deal.
people that got
devalues the
hurt worse
loans
are
and
the
can
people
benefit you,
that did it the
especially
way they were taught to
if
do it
wages are
all
keeping up
through,
with
their
inflation.
younger life and
However,
their
for someone
their
who has
young life
hoarded a
and their
lot of
whole
the
life.
currency in
The people
question,
that saved
inflation
money
does
and then
devalue
they
their
got no
hoard.
interest on their money and inflation destroyed them. And frankly, they were almost better off if they didn't do anything like that. I mean, those people have been absolutely decimated, and we're going to bring those people back and help those people. We've got to get the prices down. When I look at bacon costing 4 or 5 times more than it did a few years
Sure.
ago, when you look at some of the food products in grocery stores, people go, they can't believe it. They used to be able to buy a whole cart, and today, a lot of people just don't have the money. They go in and they can't buy anything. They look at
Yeah,
it's sticker
I
shock.
think
They
it.
call it
Yeah,
sticker shock, right?
I think it really just comes, like I said, I think it just comes down to really, I guess, two things, which is that if you solve government overspending, you solve inflation, which improves living
Right.
standards of
Oh my
the average
fucking
person,
god.
and then if you deregulate, like have sensible regulations, so because a lot of the regulations are nonsensical and cause the cost to be extreme for no reason, but unless you've got effective deregulation. Like Reagan did a great job on deregulation in the 80s, but it's been 40 years since we had at
That's right.
anyone really. I mean, during your administration, we made some progress, but I think
Good save
that
there,
we need
Elon.
to make, I think, radical progress with sensible regulation.
Yeah.
And
Well,
if it was
Elon,
those two things, yeah, those are the big deals.
we set a record. We did more deregulation and more uh, restrictions on all of the different businesses than any other president. Remember, I had the rule for everyone we put in, you have to get rid of 10 or 12. And we did
Yeah,
radical cuts on all of that, and a lot of that's being put back by this administration. And we did radical cuts on things that weren't necessary. But we were all set. We had the best economy ever, maybe in the world. And then what happened is COVID came in, and we had to focus on that, and nobody knew what it was. And I always say I got good marks on economy, good marks on military. We knocked out ISIS. We did so many different things. We rebuilt. But, I never got the credit that we really deserved on what we did with COVID. We never
What
got
the
the credit.
fuck?
But if had that not happened, a gift from China, from Wuhan, came in from Wuhan, the Wuhan labs, and I always said it, and it turned out to be right. But
What the
yeah,
fuck?
had that not happened, we were set to start reducing debt. We were going to reduce taxes further. I gave the largest tax
No.
cuts, and we were going to reduce taxes still further for middle income people, not only businesses. But we did it for
sure.
businesses because they're the ones that's why we had the great job numbers. But we were set to really start reducing debt. And, we're sitting on the biggest pile of liquid gold anywhere in the world, bigger than Saudi Arabia, bigger than Russia. And we were going to drill, and we were going to make so much money. We were going to supply Europe with oil. I had stopped the Russian pipeline, and we were going to supply them with oil and gas. We were going to make a fortune. And then the COVID came in, and we really had to divert. Then what happened is when they came in, we kept a lot of businesses alive. If I didn't do what we did, we would have had a 1929 type depression. But the problem is when Biden came in,
Oh my
he got
fucking god.
trillions of dollars and just started spending it stupidly. You didn't need it anymore. You know, we got over that bad period where everybody was dying and feeling, it was just not a good period. Interestingly,
Who
during
was the
his
president when all those people
administration,
were dying, Trump?
many more people died during his administration of COVID than during my administration, and we really got the brunt of it. But people don't realize more people died during his administration than ours. But it diverted us from doing what I wanted to do. But we had the greatest for almost 3 years. We had the
Yeah.
great, and you know that probably better than anybody. So many of your friends said to me, the best years we've ever had in business were during the Trump
I
years,
really don't know how
and
much
also
longer I
said
can
that
take this for.
African American, Hispanic American were so incredible. They were having the best Asian American women, men, young people without a diploma, young people that
Why does
graduated
he?
from the best colleges, from MIT, from the Wharton School, from all of the great colleges, Harvard. They were doing better, and people without a diploma were doing better, and everybody was happy. And then COVID came, and
Sure.
we had the problem is they spent trillions and trillions of dollars they wasted. They shouldn't have taken any money, and we wouldn't be having inflation right now, which is killing our country.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I should probably say something about like maybe my views on climate change
Yeah,
and oil and gas, because I mean, I think it's probably different from what most people would assume. Because my views are actually pretty, I think, moderate in this regard, which is
What?
that I don't think we should vilify the oil and gas industry and the people that have worked very hard in those industries to provide the necessary energy to support the economy. And if we were to stop using oil and gas right now, we would all be starving, and the economy would collapse. So I don't think it's right to sort of vilify the oil and gas industry, and I, the world has a certain demand for oil and gas, and it's probably better if the United States provides that than some other
sure.
countries, and it would help with prosperity in the U.S. And at the same time, obviously, my view is like we do over time want to move to a sustainable energy economy because eventually you do run out of. I mean, you run out of oil and gas. It's not there for. It's not infinite. Um, and there is some risk. I think the risk is not as high as a lot of people say it is with respect to global warming. But I think if you just keep increasing the parts per million in the atmosphere long enough, eventually it actually simply gets uncomfortable to breathe. People don't realize this. If you go past 1,000 parts per million of CO2, you start getting headaches and nausea. And so we're now in the sort of 400 range. We're adding, I think, about roughly 2 parts per million per year. So I mean, it still gives us. So what it means is like we still have quite a bit of time, but so there's not like we don't need to rush and we don't need to like stop farmers from farming or
Oh
you
my
know
fucking god.
prevent people from having steaks or
Right.
basic stuff like that. Like leave the farmers alone,
I agree.
in
How
my opinion.
crazy is that where
I mean,
you have farmers that are not allowed to farm anymore and have to get rid of their cattle and the whole world is
Not
a
a
little
thing.
crazy, but it's largely taken its lead from us. I do say though, I've heard in terms of the fossil fuel, because even to create your electric car and create the electricity needed for the electric car. Fossil fuel is what really creates that at the generating plants. And, so you sort of can't get away from it at this moment. I mean, someday you might be able to. But I do hear we have anywhere from 100 to 500 years left. Much of it hasn't even been found yet.
A
yeah,
But there are
hundred to
tremendous,
five
like
hundred
Anwar.
years.
I got Anwar in Alaska approved. Ronald Reagan couldn't do it. Nobody could do it. Everybody tried. Nobody could do it. I got it approved. The first thing that Biden did was unimprove to get rid of it. He ended
yeah,
it. His uh, his secretary went in and she ended it. And what a disgrace. That's Anwar. That's bigger, or they think it could be bigger than Saudi Arabia in Alaska. Could be bigger than Saudi Arabia. But they went in and they terminated it. And I'll get it going very quickly because not only is it big for Alaska, I mean, you talk about economic development, that for the United States, I mean, that is, they say bigger than Saudi Arabia or the same size. and pure, really good stuff. And, they end it. So I think we have, perhaps hundreds of years left. Nobody really knows. But during that
Yeah.
during that
I mean,
time,
my
something will
estimate.
come around that will be
Yeah.
very good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He means
Well, I
drill,
mean,
baby,
my
drill.
estimate would be, a little more uh, aggressive than that, but it's not the sort of like we're all going to die in 5 years stuff. That's obviously BS. Um, but I mean, my view is like if you just look at sort of the parts per million that increments every year, you get sort of 2 or 3 parts per million every year of CO2. Uh, I mean, I think some of that it's problematic if it accelerates if you start going from 2 or
Right.
3 to say 5, and then there may be some situations where you get just a step change increase in the
Remember
CO2.
when people called Elon
And
Musk like
and
a
I
great
think we don't
environmentalist?
want to get too close to 1,000 ppm because like that's actually makes it uncomfortable to breathe. Like just existing in 1,000 ppm CO2 is uncomfortable. That's like that's considered like an industrial hazard.
Right.
Just so it's that's actually you start getting headaches and stuff. So it's even without global warming, it's not comfortable to live. So you don't want to get too close to that. But I mean, I think we've got. I think we want to just move over and like and if I don't know 50 to 100 years from now yeah, we're I don't know mostly sustainable. I think that'll probably be okay. Um, so it's not like the house is on fire immediately, but I think it is something we need to move towards. And on on balance, it's probably better to move there faster than slower. But like I said, without vilifying the oil and gas industry, and without causing hardship in the short term. I think this can be done without but people can still have a stake and they can still drive gasoline
Sure.
cars and it's okay. It's like it's not. I don't
Elon
think we should vilify
advocating for
people for it, but I
gasoline
think we should
cars over the last year
just generally
has been
lean
the
in the direction
funniest
of
thing I've seen.
sustainability. And I actually think solar is going to be a majority of Earth's energy
Yeah,
generation
solar roofs will be
in
the
the future,
majority
and
of
it's
it by
certainly
last
trending that
year.
way.
Hmm.
And so you get the solar power, combine that with batteries, so because obviously the sun doesn't shine at night, and then you use that to charge the electric cars, and you have a long-term sustainable solution. And that's what Tesla's trying to move things towards, and I think we've made a lot of progress in that regard. But when you look at our cars, we don't believe that environmentalism, that caring about the environment should mean that you have to suffer. So we make sure that our cars are beautiful, that they drive well, that they're fast, they're sexy. I mean, they're cool. In fact, literally, I made this sexy joke. Model S, Model 3, Model X, and Y spells out sexy. It's probably the most expensive
He's
joke out there.
explaining the
Um,
joke to Trump.
but I don't know, I like cheesy humor, So, um, but I'm a big fan of like let's have an inspiring future, and
Yeah.
let's work towards a better future, and we can do so without demonizing
Right.
people.
I'm okay.
You know,
It's very interesting. You use the word global warming, and today they use the word climate change because you have some places that go up, and so they were getting themselves in a little trouble with the word global warming because not every place is
Oh
warming. Some
my
places are going the
fucking
opposite direction.
god.
But I'm sort of waiting for you to come up with solar panels on the roofs of your cars and on the trunks
Ah,
of the cars, and it just seems like something that at some point you will come up with. I'm sure you'll be the first, but it would seem that a solar panel on the roofs, on flat surfaces, on
no, it's
certain
not large
surfaces might be
enough.
good,
yeah,
at
Trump,
least in
it's a
certain
bad
areas of the
idea.
country where you have the world
sure,
where you have the sun. But I would think, and I have no idea because that's not my world, but I would think that this would be something that would be interesting. But the one thing that I don't understand is that people talk about global warming or they talk about climate change, but they never talk about nuclear warming. And to
He
me,
did
sure,
that's
not
an
explain that.
immediate problem because you have, as I said, 5 countries where you have major nuclear, and probably some others are getting there, and that's very dangerous. That's where you need a strong American president because you don't want to have this proliferation. But you have 5 countries and getting more. China is much less than us right now, but they're going to catch us sooner than people think. They're way lower. Russia and us are number one, and I mean, we're sort of tied. and China is far behind, but they're
There's
developing
little
at a level
jabs
that
they keep
you're not
making at
surprised
each
to
other,
hear
and it's
very
kind of
fast.
funny. Like the solar roof
They'll end up
thing
catching up.
could have been a jab, or
Maybe
it could
even
have just been
surpassing.
Donald
But to
Trump
me, the biggest
talking.
problem is not climate change. It's not, and everything's a problem, but it's degrees. To me, the big problem is the nuclear power. The power of nuclear is so great. And when I talk about I'll
Nuclear power
prevent
is
World,
underrated. It's
I'll
awesome.
prevent World War
Yeah.
III.
Oh.
I
Nope,
will,
he's back to
the truth
nuclear
is
bombs,
that
Elon.
you
You
have to,
misread him.
because this is no longer army tanks going back and forth and shooting at each other.
No,
This
he's
is
saying
a
if there was
level of
nuclear war,
destruction
it would
and power
cause
that nobody's ever
climate
seen before.
change.
Yeah, and actually, there's the bad
It's
side of
not
nuclear,
clear what
which
he
is
means.
nuclear war, very bad side. But there's also
Nuclear
I
war,
think,
very bad. Elon
ele-
taking a stance.
electricity generation
Absolutely.
is underrated.
You're right.
And it's actually, people have this fear of nuclear electricity generation, but it's actually one of the safest forms of electricity generation. It's just a huge misunderstanding. And if you look at the injuries and deaths, caused by, say, I mean, I'm not going to try to pick on coal mining, but just any kind of mining operation. And there's a certain
Can't
number
pick on
of
coal
injuries and deaths
mining.
per year. And you compare that to nuclear. Nuclear is actually way better. So it's underrated as an electricity source, and I think it's something that's worth reconsidering. But there's so much regulation that people can't get it done. So that
Maybe they'll have
sort
to
of
change the
have
name.
it,
The name is just, it's a rough name. There are some areas like
it's a rough
when
name.
you see what happened in
Good bad
right.
branding. The
We'll have to
branding's rough.
rebrand it. We'll have to give it a good name. We'll name it after you or something. No, it has it has a branding problem. When you see what happened,
It does have a branding problem.
when you see what happened in Japan, where they say you won't be able to go on the land for about 3,000 years. Did you ever see that? And in Russia, where they had the problem, where they, there's a lot of bad things happened, and they have a problem. And they say that in 2,000 years, people will
It's
start to
incredible
occupy the
both
land
of
again.
these guys' ability to
realize it's
just
pretty
like
bad,
No, that's not true.
but
vaguely remember
You're right
something
about it.
and
It's
butcher
it's
it to hell,
actually not that
right?
bad. So like after Fukushima happened in Japan, like people were asking me in California, are we worried about like a nuclear cloud coming from Japan? I'm like, no, that's crazy. It's actually, it's not even dangerous in Fukushima. I actually flew there and ate locally grown vegetables on TV to prove it. Um, and I donated a solar water treatment, a solar powered system for a water treatment plant. And
Yeah, but you haven't
because the
been
danger
feeling
is
so
just
well lately, and I'm worried about it.
no, but I mean,
I'm
it's just
only kidding.
it's fine, It's like Hiroshima and Nagasaki were bombed, but now they're like full cities again. So
Right.
it's
Well, that's
really
great.
not
That's
something that
That's
um,
great.
so it's not as scary as people think, basically.
Yeah.
But let's see. I mean, are there some other topics we should touch on? Like lawfare. I think
Well,
we need to be concerned about.
what they've done to
Um,
this country.
obviously,
Yeah.
Say
yeah.
Well, we
which
just
one?
won the big
I mean,
case in Florida. This was a Biden administration did something that's never been done in this country, and that's go after their political opponent, me, with this nonsense and just nonsense. And the big case in Florida we won, but they always pick a judge and a jury, and they use the local DAs, they use the local attorney generals, like Fani, Fani, spelled
yeah,
Fani, Fani, and it's
yeah,
all a big hoax, and it's all run from there. Like in Manhattan, the one of the top people from the Justice Department went in, ran Manhattan, ran the state. The Letitia James deal was run by a person from the Department of Justice, Biden. They've never
Say
done
which
this
one?
before, and they set up a very bad precedent. It's called lawfare, warfare.
yeah,
It's a terrible thing,
So
and
which one?
never happened in our country. It does happen in banana republics and third world countries, but it's never
yeah,
happened. And the incredible thing is it actually drove my numbers up because people see,
Oh my god.
fortunately I have a platform like you, or,
Say
in
True
all fairness,
Social.
like a conversation like this, where I can talk
Say free
about it and
speech.
people understand. I mean, you fight for election integrity and you end up getting indicted
Say which one?
because you're fighting for election integrity. And when the day comes that you can't fight for election integrity, you don't have a country anymore. So what happens? What
yeah.
happens is they went after their political opponent, me. Now Biden's, close to vegetable stage, in my opinion. Okay, I looked at him today on the beach, and I said, why would anybody allow him? The guy could barely walk. Why would anybody allow him Does
Yeah.
she have a political advisor that thinks this looks good? He thinks this looks good because it looks so bad, and it's ridiculous. I mean, and he's been doing that
Right.
for a long time. He can't lift the chair. The chair weighs about 3 ounces. It's meant for children and old people to lift, and he can't
Yeah.
lift it. The whole thing is
Well,
crazy.
he's clearly. Not, I mean, he's clearly like we just don't have a president right
You
now.
don't
That's
have a
just obviously
president,
the
Oh
and
my
case.
she's going to be
God.
worse than him because she is a San Francisco liberal who destroyed San Francisco.
Say communist.
And then as Attorney General, she destroyed California. You talk about location, and we're talking about the sun and the water and all. There's nothing better than California. She has destroyed that. She was the original DA. She was the original in San Francisco. She was the original Attorney General in California. What she has done to California is
She was the
well, you know
original
better than I
attorney
do. You
general
just
in
left
California.
California for a lot of those reasons. And what she's done with crime, with cashless bail, where you kill somebody. I mean, we have states now you kill somebody and they let you out right away. I mean, you don't have to even put up, and then they never
Bail.
find the people unless they
Cash
kill again,
bail
and then they
is
let
where
them
you
out
kill
again.
someone and they let you out right
Our
away.
country is becoming a very dangerous place.
Cashless
And
bail,
she
you
is
make a risk
radical
assessment.
left San Francisco liberal, and now she's trying to protect. Now she's looking like she wants to be more Trump than Trump, if that's possible. I don't think it's possible.
I
But
don't
she
think
wants to
that's
be
what
more
she
Trump
wants.
than
Well,
Trump.
yeah.
I want a wall.
I think that's.
Oh, we got
She
wall.
wants to release all the
Yeah.
prisoners that are in detention, and some of these guys are really bad.
Right.
That just came
Yeah, I
out
just saw
today.
that.
She
Yeah.
doesn't want to build the wall, even though the walls work. Walls and wheels.
Trump
You know,
did
in your
donate to her
business,
as
everything
AG.
you do is obsolete. Almost, well, not the tunnels, but everything is obsolete. Even your rocket ships, they're like a month later, they're obsolete. You find a better way to. The only thing that's not obsolete is a wall and a wheel, and the wall. I built hundreds of miles of wall, and that's why we had such good numbers. I was going to add 200
Yeah.
miles. We bought it. We could have flipped it up in 3 weeks, and they sold it for 5 cents on the dollar. That meant I said, "Wow, that means that they actually do want to have open borders." She wants to have open borders, and now she's going like she's tough on the border. It's such a lie.
Yeah. This is simply not
Yeah,
true. This is simply
no,
not
and
true.
everybody
Yeah,
knows it's
simply
not true. It's a disgrace that she
Yeah.
can say it.
No, I mean, obviously, what's happening sort of overnight is they're rewriting history and making Kamala sound like a moderate when in fact she is far left, like far left.
Worse
Oh.
than Bernie
Um,
Sanders. She is considered
Yeah.
more liberal by far than Bernie Sanders. She's a radical left lunatic. And if she's going to be our president, very quickly, you're not going to have a country anymore. And she'll go back to all
Yeah.
of the things that she believes
Come on,
in.
communist.
She believes in defunding the police. She believes in no fracking, zero.
Communist.
Now all of a
Yeah,
sudden
yeah,
she's
yeah.
saying, no,
She's a communist.
I really want to see fracking. If they got in, the day she got in, she'll end fracking. And by the way, if people didn't think that, the lunatics that really believe in that, they won't vote for her. Like the Palestinians and Israel. She is so anti-Israel, and she's bad for both. Biden actually did something that was impossible. Both sides hate him. Both sides. That was a hard
Yeah.
thing to do. Unification.
Yeah, no. I mean,
He did that whole thing without saying communist.
Netanyahu came to give a talk to a joint Senate and House sitting, and I was there, and Kamala stood him up. What does that say?
It
I think
says
it's highly
Bibi should stop doing
disrespectful.
so much
And I say,
genocide
if you're
and
a Jewish
fraud and
person, or if you
fraud.
believe in Israel, if you're a person that is a very pro-Israel, if you vote for her, it's worse than Biden, and Biden was bad. But if you vote for her, you ought to have your head examined. And you see tonight, I mean, as we're doing this, I'm seeing reports coming that they expect an attack tonight or tomorrow from hundreds and maybe thousands of rockets. Their
Billions,
Iron Dome,
maybe.
as they call it, as we all call it, but their shield that they build, that can be swamped. We'll use the term that's
Yeah.
appropriate, swamped. But they
Yeah.
swamp it by shooting enough missiles. You know this better than anybody. By shooting enough missiles,
Sure.
they can't defend themselves. They just obliterate the whole
Yeah.
place. And that's what some people think they're looking to do. And we have no leadership. There's no respect for the United States of America with these people. And I'm telling you,
Yeah.
she'll be worse than him. because she's a believer
no,
in
I
being
think you're right.
radical left, and he wasn't.
Communist, say it.
I think you're right. I mean, you really, it's important for the public that may be listening to this to look at Kamala's track record, before the last month, and say, is that a track record you agree with? And I think if you're an independent moderate, you definitely would not agree with it, because it is her behavior has been far left. And we're seeing just an overnight propaganda attempt to rewrite history and make it
Come on,
sound like
say
Kamala's
communist,
moderate
Elon.
when she
You'll
in
tweet
fact
it.
is not moderate.
I mean, post it.
Well, her
So I
her
think
running mate approved, signed into legislation, tampons in boys' bathrooms. Okay.
Good.
Now,
Yeah.
Way
that's
to
all
go,
I have
Tim
for you.
Waltz.
Tampons in boys'
Tampons are
bathrooms.
cheap, and hey,
And
if a
that
boy
means
needs
she
one, let
believes
him
in that
have
too.
one.
I
What
mean,
the fuck, man?
Yeah,
she
that's
she
not
picked
okay.
this guy because he was the
Ooh,
closest.
big
A lot of
scary
people
little
thought she
piece
picked
of
sort of the opposite,
cotton with a
but she
string.
picked
What am I
an
gonna do if it's in my
anti-Israel
bathroom? I might
radical
see a
left
little
person.
piece of
But
cotton
she
with
is
a
far
string.
worse, they say, than Bernie Sanders. If we have her as a president, if we have a Democrat at this moment as the president, I don't think our country can survive.
I think it's a massive. I think we're in massive trouble, frankly, with the Kamala administration, and that's my honest opinion. And I think really it's essential that you win for the good of the country this election. And I mean I'm just stating my opinion. Now you may have seen this, but I got a letter from the EU Commission saying to not have disinformation on during this discussion that we're having and there's a lot of attempts to
Oh, we're gonna
do
get bingo.
censorship and to force censorship even on Americans from other countries and what do you think about that?
Well, I know the European Union very well. They take great advantage of the United States in trade, as you know. We, through a different forum, NATO, we protect them. And yet, if you build a car in the United States, you can't sell it in Europe. You just can't sell it. It's impossible. The same thing with our farmers. Our
Elon
farmers
wants him
find
to
it
say
very
free
difficult
speech,
to
but
do
he's not
business.
saying it.
We have a deficit with them of $250 billion, which people don't know. It sounds so nice, the European Union, but let me tell you, they're not as tough as China, but they're bad. And I let them know it. And that's probably why they notified you. No, they don't treat our country well. We defend them, with Ukraine. So we're in for 250 billion, and they're in for about 71 billion, and they have the same size. If you add up the European nations that in terms of an economy, it's about the same size. Wouldn't you say as us? And they're in,
Wouldn't you say?
and they're in much greater risk. They're right there. We have an ocean separating us from, in this case, the enemy. would be
Elon wanted
Russia.
a free
Used to
speech
be
thing,
from
but
the Soviet
didn't.
Union, but
Couldn't
let's
get
assume
Trump
they're
there.
close enough. And what happens is they're in for 70-something million. I think even less than that, billion, and we're in for about 250 billion.
We're
and
in
it could
for
be a lot higher than
11,000
that.
trillion
And I say,
billions,
why aren't
and
you
they're
gonna
in for
equalize?
6
Why aren't they
trillion
paying
billions, and I
what we're
think that
paying?
that's a fake
And they're in
news.
much more, it's much more important for them because of the fact that, they're right near there. I mean, they're all sort of in that location. We're not. But they should, and I did it with NATO. There were only 7 countries that were paid up in NATO out of 28 at the time. And the United States was the United States was subsidizing NATO, tremendously subsidizing NATO. And I said, I went in and I said, you got to pay up. If you don't pay up, we're not going to defend you any longer. I took a lot of heat, but you know what happened? Billions and billions of dollars came flowing in. And
I think a lot of the public isn't aware of the fact that the United States pays a disproportionate share of the NATO expenses.
And then we get taken advantage of on trade. So
Oh my
think
God.
about it.
Well, I mean, the point of NATO is defending Europe, and it's it's like then okay, well, why is the United States paying disproportionately more to defend Europe than Europe? That doesn't make sense. That's unfair. And that is an appropriate thing to
Hey,
address.
if you want to
Well,
be
when
the
you
global
talk about
hegemon, you
cost
gotta
cutting and
pay
savings
some
and
bills.
everything
That's
else,
that's
I
the
mean,
social
honestly,
contract.
Look, there's nobody that feels worse about the Ukraine situation than I do because I know it would have never happened. I know Zelensky. He was very honorable to me because when they went with the Russia hoax, and they said I had a phone call with him. He said it was a perfect phone call. It was a great phone call. He could have
That's not what he
grandstanded
said.
and said, "Oh, he was very threatening." He said, "No, it was a very nice phone call." I called him up to congratulate him on his win, and you end up getting impeached because these people are
Yeah, yeah.
lunatics. I was talking about the difference from the people within and the enemies on the outside. In many cases, the people from within are more dangerous for our country than the Russias and the Chinas. If you have a smart
Just
president,
a
you're not going to have a
fascist.
problem with them. You're going to do things.
Yeah.
Now they've taken advantage
Yeah,
of us
absolutely.
incredibly, but you're going to do things with the right person.
Yeah, well, I think it's obvious that you're a believer and an advocate of free speech because during your
Hey,
first term as president,
we got a
you were
bingo.
attacked relentlessly every day, often very unfairly with with false attacks, and you didn't try to shut down the media. You didn't try to uh, inhibit their freedom of speech, and I think that says a lot.
Well, the good thing is that you and I have, and some people, very few, we can get the word out. Although sometimes it's hard because they don't want to print it. Like we're having a great conversation right now. Kamala wouldn't have this conversation. She can't because she's not
No.
smart. She's not a smart person, by the way. She can't have this conversation. And Biden, we don't even have to talk about it. I mean, he couldn't have this conversation. He would have given up on the first half of a question. He would have walked out. He would have said, "Where am I? Where am I going?" So anyway, but
Yeah,
no, he wouldn't have this.
that's true.
Not a lot of people would have this conversation, but we cover a lot of territory.
Are they
But the
gonna
beauty
wrap
is
this
that
up right as we get
we
bingo?
can
That'd be
have a
great.
conversation, and
Yes, you can
I'm
actually
able
have a
to get
conversation.
it out without because I get treated
this is a
unfairly
this
by
is a
the
really
press.
big point. You can actually have a conversation with you,
Yeah, it's nice, isn't it?
and you can't have a conversation with Biden or Kamala. It's like not it's not possible.
That's true.
Um,
It's
so this is like talking to an NPC.
no.
So it's just
Well,
impossible.
but think of it. We need a man or person who's unbelievably sharp in order to stop all the nuclear danger and all the dangers that I'm talking about. And I got along with all these. I got along with Kim Jong Un. We had dinner. We had everything, and he really liked me, and I
Everything?
got along with him really well. By the way, he's the absolute boss over there. A lot of people said, "Oh, do you think he really?"
That's for
Let me
sure.
tell you, I saw things that you don't want to know about. He is the boss.
What?
But we had a good relationship, and he doesn't like Biden. He considers him a stupid man. He said he's a stupid man. Well, at least he speaks his mind. But in this country, you're not sort of allowed to say it, but I guess you are. You should be allowed to say it if
Yeah,
it's true. But we need smart people, and we need people that have an ability to lead. And she doesn't have that ability. Can you imagine? Now,
yeah.
Chairman Xi very well. Can you imagine her and him negotiating or
No, it's
even
silly. It would be
standing
silly.
together? It is the whole
Yeah.
concept is ridiculous. She is terrible. She's terrible. But she's getting a free ride. I
It
saw a
would.
picture of her
Yeah, yeah.
on Time Magazine today. She looks like the most beautiful actress ever to live. It was a drawing,
Why
and
does he talk about?
Yeah,
actually,
yeah.
she looked very much like our great first lady, Melania. She looked, she looked, didn't look,
Yeah.
she didn't look like Camilla. That's right. But of course, she's a beautiful woman, so we'll leave it at that, right?
Yeah, well, maybe like I think part of what people in America want to, people in America want to feel excited and inspired about the future. They want to feel like the
It's
future is
true.
going to be better than the past, and that America is going to do things that are greater than we've done in the past, reach
Right.
new heights that make you proud to be an American, and excited about the future. Um,
They want the
I
American
think
dream
this,
back. They want the American dream back. More important than anything else. It's like you don't have that today because the people they've been just sucked. They see incompetent people running our. You know, the Biden thing is very interesting. People just found him to be incompetent, and when I debated him, I was like, "Is this for real?" It was
yeah, it was just absurd. But I think there are like some grand projects that we could do. I mean, I think like we could build a base on the moon. We could send American astronauts to Mars. We
right.
could
Oh,
build high speed
Yep.
connections that are more advanced than anything else in the world between our cities, so people have fast transport. Um, it's possible to solve traffic with tunnels.
That's right.
We already made great progress in Vegas doing that, and and just do things that are exciting and inspiring and make the future feel like it's better than the past.
Well, I saw what you
Like,
did in Vegas, and I'll tell you, it was amazing. I got to see. I took a big glimpse at it, and it's incredible. It's incredible, and you could do that all over. You could do that all over. It's deep.
yeah,
You
and
don't
that's
even need much structure. Assuming you're in the right areas.
no, it's straightforward.
It's amazing.
So like I think we could do some things that like China's got incredible high speed rail between its cities, but I think it's
You
actually
killed
possible
high-speed rail in
with,
California,
with
Elon.
tunnels if it with deregulation with an ability to actually where it's like legal to actually do the tunnels. Then you could have high speed tunnels that are actually better than anything else in the world for high speed transport between cities, and that would be something that Americans can say, "Wow, okay, we've got something that's cooler than anyone else in the
Yeah.
world." That's the kind of thing that makes you proud to be an
And
American.
much safer than surface trains, where there is a danger there. With people, with crazy
Yeah,
people, it's much safer, much better. And it's sad because I've seen some of the greatest trains. I find it fascinating, and I've seen the systems and how they work, and the bullet trains they call them, I guess, and they
yeah,
they go unbelievably fast, unbelievably comfortable, with no problems. And we don't have anything like that in this country, not even close. And
yeah.
it doesn't make sense that we don't. Doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and I think also like there's I'm kind of hopping on the excess regulation, but I think something that that I think people can generally understand is that what happens with laws and regulations is that there's more and more of them every year, and unless there's a process to clean them up, eventually everything becomes
You're right.
illegal, and that actually it slows down the development of new technologies. I mean, if you take the sort of like I think there's room for some reform at the FDA
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
improving the speed with which we
Say
approve
NHTSA.
drugs that could help save lives and improve people's
Yeah.
lives. And
I worked very hard
and
on that.
that,
We got that
yeah,
down to the lowest number ever, and we got therapeutics approved in the FDA that people can't even believe the speed. But I took them on. I don't think they like me too much, but I got things approved in the FDA at numbers that they wouldn't believe. And it's a very bureaucratic group. Actually, it's a fine group of people in many cases. I got to know a lot of them, but I was pushing them really hard for Regeneron, for so many different things that were really pretty amazing. But the FDA takes too long. It's 12 years to get a product approved. I got it down to 4, and I
yeah.
got some things done very quickly. But it's really something that is going to have to be worked on because it takes too long. Just takes too long.
Yeah, it just takes too long, and it's you end up in the same with the approval, but it's just it takes years instead of something that I think could potentially take
Yeah,
months, that improves people's lives. I
yeah,
think but I just wanted to hop on this point that like there has to be an active process for reducing rules and regulations because otherwise they just keep building up every year and
yep,
you get like hardening of the arteries and eventually everything's illegal or takes forever and then we just we just ossify as a society. Uh, we can't make any
yeah.
progress and that's it's a really big
Well,
deal.
Elon, just
So
getting back to the FDA for 1 second, I got something done called Right to Try. This is where you can go in and if you're terminally ill, you can use a space age, medicine or whatever it may be. We have the best doctors, the
Space
best labs in
age.
the world. We really do. And but people would go to other countries because you couldn't use the product, even if they thought it worked, because it's going through the FDA. I got it approved
yeah,
where you can
yeah,
you basically you look, nobody wanted, the doctors didn't want it because of the liability, the country didn't want it, our country, because they didn't want to get sued. These are people terminally ill. The insurance companies didn't want it, and the pharmaceutical companies, nobody wanted it. I got everybody into a room, and we came up with an agreement that you won't get sued. And also, they didn't want it on their record. If somebody's terminally ill and they die after taking a drug, they didn't want that on their record. So we set a separate list. If somebody was, so it wouldn't count as a negative.
yeah,
Okay. And as you know, we got it
yeah,
done. We have saved Right to Try. They've been trying to get this done for 58
yeah,
years. And it sounds simple, but it wasn't because, I mean, the insurance companies, nobody wanted it, but we got it done.
sure,
Somebody signs, you sign a document that you're not going to sue the insurance companies, the country, you're not going to sue anybody. and we got it done. And we're saving tens of thousands of lives. Right to try. Hopefully, you never need it, but if you
Yeah.
do, you don't have to travel to Asia. You know, people,
Right.
if they had money, they go to
Yeah.
Asia, they
Sure.
go to Europe. If they don't have money, they go home and die. That's what happened. They'd go home and
Yeah.
die.
Well, I mean, and actually, to give Europe some props here, it's like if a drug is approved in Europe, which has a crazy amount of regulations, it should obviously be approved in the U.S.
Yeah.
I mean, they got
Oh
more regulations
man.
than we do. So what? Why would a drug be approved in Europe and not in the U.S.? That's crazy.
Well, we did it. We
Um,
did something that really, they've been trying to do it for 50 years, and they just couldn't get it done, and I got it done. And it's really
I
something.
got
But you're
maybe
right.
5 minutes
Some people
left in
go
me,
to
then I'm
Europe because a drug
signing
isn't
off.
approved here, but it's approved in Europe, and it's a drug that, generally speaking, would
yeah,
work. It's pretty crazy. You're
absolutely.
right.
And I think so, as long as people are properly informed of the pros and cons and like these are the risks, these are this is the risk, and like you make your own decision.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Well, I think just,
So
in sort of closing up, and by the way, I'm looking at the numbers. You got a lot of people listening. I hope you don't get
yeah,
nervous because you got a lot
Closing
of
up.
people
There we go.
listening to you right now, like 60 million or something. What is that number? It's crazy. It's amazing how
1
you
million.
can
It's
see that
1
right
million.
away.
The
How many?
number
What
is
is the
1
number?
million. The
Wow.
number he can't read. It's 1 million.
What is it?
well,
Wow.
I think in
Wow.
terms of people that that
That's bigger than you said.
What?
You
No,
you
it's
said
not.
25, and you're much more than double that number.
It's
25
it's
million. I think
1
you're going to be
million.
60 or 70. And I guess over a period of time. Hey, I congratulate you. Do I get paid for this or not?
What are
well, I think actually in terms of the number of people that will hear this conversation over the next few days to
Right.
weeks, it's going to be
ex-
hundreds of
That's what they
millions.
say. Yeah, that's good. Well, look, it's an
Yeah.
honor. Yeah, I just asked this: are you better off now, or were you better off when I was president? Nobody's better off now. People, we put out polls on that, and nobody's better off now. Inflation has killed it, and they also feel very unsafe. You look at what's going on with a lot of different things. You look at the riots we had at the
Yeah.
colleges over. I mean, it's ridiculous, but
Right.
all of the riots, they just feel unsafe. And now they really feel unsafe because you have a new form of crime. It's called migrant crime. I call it Biden
Well,
migrant
yeah.
crime. Maybe I'll call it
Well,
Kamala migrant crime. But
I mean, with all these things, I always try to get to the ground truth by just asking people. And my mom lives in New York, and I was like, Mom, do have any of your friends, been attacked or assaulted? And she said, yeah, three of her friends in three separate
crazy.
incidents were assaulted just in recent months, just walking around the streets of New York. And I said, well,
sure.
did what happened to the people that assaulted them? Oh, nothing. They got away. Like, and they just
They
know
always get
that
away.
nothing's gonna.
They always
And
get
they don't
away.
even, and
What
they
does
don't
that
even
say
bother
about the
reporting it because
police?
there's
What
not.
does it
They
say
know that
about the
they're not
police?
going to. People are not going to get prosecuted. They just let violent criminals out in New York
The only
with
one that gets
zero bail.
prosecuted is Donald Trump. They don't get.
Give
They
us a witch hunt.
prosecute Trump.
Yeah, I mean
Just to close it out.
it's just obviously messed up
Oh, it's terrible.
if violent criminals are being getting off scot
Yep.
free, and meanwhile the New York spending massive resources prosecuting you, and it's like what's this and I think the sort of sensible public looks at this and says what the heck's going on here? This is obviously abuse of the legal system. Um, the legal system is supposed to be protecting the public
right.
from violent criminals, and it should be obviously allowing the public to make their own decision about who should be president, as opposed to some legal case.
Once they start this precedent, because this can go on with the next one. I mean, this is a very bad precedent what they're doing in terms of going after their political opponent, and that's all it
Say
is. It's
witch
going
hunt.
after their political opponent,
Yeah.
and then you get a judge who's
Give us witch hunt.
a strong Democrat, and I'm being nice when I say that. In many cases,
Which
crooked as
judge?
hell. But you get a judge, and you go into an area where a Republican gets 3 or 4% of the vote, and you'll have a jury pool
Yeah.
with people that hate Republicans or hate. It could
Sure.
also be the other way, though,
Of course.
because it could start the other way in areas where they hate Democrats,
Exactly.
and you get into a
Yep.
Pandora's box. It's a very dangerous thing for this country, and a very dangerous thing even for the state. New York City is
Yep.
losing. New York
Absolutely.
City and state lose a lot of business over what they did to me, because these people say, we don't want that to happen to us. That's no justice system. You have an unfair system of
Yes.
justice, and it's costing New York State a tremendous amount of money. People are leaving and companies are leaving, and they won't come back. So, all of that stuff is important. But the economy now is the big thing, and we can turn that economy up so fast, and people are going to be back again. We're going to get rid of
Yeah,
inflation.
I think there's a lot of
Right.
opportunity. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So
And I just
I,
want
th-
to
I
I want to
think
congratulate you. You've done an amazing job. You have definitely got a fertile mind. We can talk. You and I can talk about rockets and
it's kind of you to say. Thank you.
tunnels. We can talk about tunnels and rockets and electric cars. So many things. And now you're into the AI, and that's going to be another beauty, I'll say. So
Yeah.
it's an amazing thing you've done, Elon. It's an amazing thing, and I
Well,
congratulate you.
I mean, thank you. And well, I mean, I just say here, here's to an exciting, inspiring future that people can look forward to and be optimistic and excited about what happens next. And that's the kind of future that I think you will bring as president, and that's why I endorse you.
Well, I appreciate that. That endorsement meant a lot to me. Not all endorsements mean that much, to be honest. Your endorsement meant a lot. And, we have a phrase, make America great again. It's pretty simple, but it really says that we want to make America great again. And we can do it. We can do it now, but if we were going to suffer another 4 years like we've suffered for the last 4 years, I'm not sure the country can ever come back. That's how bad it is. It's so bad. We have to do a lot
I
of
think
things.
that's a very real
Yeah,
risk.
it's a big risk.
That's a very real risk.
Yeah.
And it's, I'd just like to note to people listening, like I've not been very political before, and if you look at my record, I've actually been. I'm not like sometimes they try to paint me as like a far right guy, which is absurd because I'm like making electric vehicles and solar and batteries, helping with the environment, and I actually I I supported Obama. I stood in line for 6 hours to shake Obama's hand when he was running for president, and so it's not like I'm like some sort of dyed-in-the-wool long-term Republican.
I don't
I'm
believe
actually,
that
I call
story.
myself, historically a moderate Democrat, but now I feel like we're really at a critical juncture for the country, and I think a lot of people thought the Biden administration would be a moderate administration, but it's not, and obviously we're just going to see an even further left administration with Kamala. That's my honest opinion. I mean, her dad is literally. I mean, she was brought up as an actual. Her dad is a Marxist economist.
There's no waiting in line here. It looks like
it's not a. We're not
he
making
was
this up,
invited to a dinner with tech
That's how
leaders.
she was brought up. So.
That's like Eric Schmidt,
we
and
want to have
this is
a future that is prosperous, and I think we're just at this critical juncture, and I think this is a case of the America is going to at a fork in the road, and
It's true.
and I think it will take if the path to, like you are the path to prosperity, and I think Kamala is the opposite. Then that's my honest opinion. I'm gonna get attacked like crazy, and I've also experienced quite a bit of lawfare myself, and
say it.
I'm just trying to tell people my honest opinion, and I haven't been really active in politics before, and I'm just trying to point out that my track record historically has been moderate, if not moderate, slightly left, and so this is to people out there.
Come
who are in
on,
the
you
moderate
guys. I was a
camp to say,
moderate
I think
before.
you should
Let
support,
me endorse just
Donald
one
Trump for president,
authoritarian rapist
and I think
racist
it's
who
actually
wants to
a very
destroy
important junction in the road,
democracy.
and we're
I should be able to do that
if
one time, you
it goes the other
guys.
way.
Well, I want to thank you. And, I actually always did think of you as somewhat left. I must say that. So it's
Yeah.
even more of an
Well,
honor to have your endorsement. I know how strong you feel about it. But, when you think of her, San Francisco, 15 years ago, I had a great friend, Bob Tish. He said it's the greatest city in America. And now it's almost not livable there. And California likewise. And she was involved in the destruction of San Francisco and the destruction of California. And she will be involved in the destruction of our country if people are so unwise as to elect her. And I hope that doesn't happen. And I hope the elections are going to be run honestly. And we're going to turn this country around. We're going to do things and we can do it fairly quickly. And we have to get rid of the criminals that have been, given to us by other countries as they laugh. They laugh at us. They think we're stupid to accept these people. These are radical, stone cold killers in many cases and terrorists. And they're in our country by the hundreds of thousands.
Yeah,
And we have to take
yeah,
them out.
yeah. I mean, if I could summarize it, perhaps, I think
How many
these are issues
times are
that
you
I
going to
think
wrap up this
most people in
conversation?
America would agree with, which is that we want safe and clean cities, we want secure borders, we want sensible government spending, we want to
We want
restore both the
robotaxis.
perception and reality of respect in the judicial
We
system.
want SpaceX.
Stop the lawfare,
Witch hunt.
and I think that's like. And
We want
how
to
are
kill the
how are
communists.
those even right-wing positions? I think those are just that's just common sense, and that's. I mean, would you agree with that?
100%. I don't understand, the whole, they call it progressive. They don't like the word liberal anymore, but call it liberal or progressive. I don't understand how somebody could say that it's okay for them to empty prisons into our country.
What?
And again, I told you, their crime rates
definitely
all
not
over the world
okay.
are going way down, which makes sense. In fact, the next time what we'll do is if something happens with this election, which would be a horror show, we'll meet the next time in Venezuela because it'll be a far safer place to meet than our country. Okay, so we'll go. You and I will go, and we'll have a meeting and dinner in Venezuela.
Did he just threaten a
because that's what's
coup?
happening. Their crime
That
rates coming down,
ends
and
with
our
him
crime rates going through the
escaping to
roof. And
Venezuela?
it's so simple, and you haven't seen anything yet because these people have come into our country and they're just getting acclimated, and they don't know about being politically correct enforcement or lack of law enforcement. And our police, I have to just end with this. We have great police. We have great law enforcement, but they're not allowed to do their job. They have to be able to do their
Yeah.
job without being destroyed.
Did
Well,
Elon say that her dad is a
absolutely, and
Marxist?
it's
I missed
awfully
that. If he said that,
demoralizing
that
if you're a police
counts.
officer risking your life to arrest violent criminals who could kill you and do kill you sometimes, and then you arrest the violent criminal, and then the DA doesn't prosecute and they just let the guy out.
Right.
Well, then why should a police officer risk their life to arrest a violent felon?
Well, even worse,
if
Elon,
nothing's going to happen.
even worse,
It
they
doesn't
prosecute
necessarily
the police
read
officer.
great as a joke when you,
They go after
started
it,
an
and they
insurrection.
prosecute the police officer, and they take away his pension.
Say witch hunt.
They take away his
Yeah.
job. He loses his family. He loses his house.
Well, I thought it was very telling, like incredibly telling, that when there was that case where sort of a gang of thugs beat up police officers. I think it was in Times
Yep.
Square in New York, and then nothing happened to those guys. They were let out, zero bail, and I think a bunch of them were given free tickets to California. Well,
What are you talking about? The
that
cops
is a
were
gross
beat
indignity
up by a
against the United
gang of
States, and
thugs?
that's how. I mean, this is insane. Like, have we lost all pride? How can such a thing be allowed to occur?
I've never
What
seen
do you
anything.
mean?
We see where they get shot. It's a very dangerous profession, but it's something they're very proud of, and they want to be able to do their job. But I've seen them get shot. I've seen a lot of things. But I've never seen where these guys are standing in the middle
I'd
of
shoot
a
him on
big
Fifth
street,
Avenue.
everybody watching them, and they're literally boxing, like punching, stand-up fighting a police officer. There were two of them, and you
Yeah.
had about six
Yeah,
of
yeah.
these guys, and they're punching the hell out of them. And in their own country, they would be dead if they did that. They'd be shot.
Yes.
They would be shot instantly. And they come from
Please
these
just
countries,
end
and
this
it's taking
interview.
them
I
a
want it
while
to
to
be
realize
done.
that we don't do that in this country. But in their own country,
Yeah.
if they stood on a street and had a fight with a police officer, they would be shot. There's no political correctness, and it's such a sad,
Yeah,
it's such a sad thing to see. And that's the reason you have crime, by the way,
yeah.
because we don't do anything about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, we just cannot have a situation where our police officers are beaten up on camera by a gang of illegal immigrants, and then nothing happens to the guys that beat up the cops. I mean, and they're let out. This is
Well,
unacceptable.
we're going to change it,
Um,
and we're going to get them out of the country. When I first got involved, they said you couldn't get them back to these countries. You couldn't take them back. In the case of Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, some others, you couldn't get them back. And I said, really? Oh, you can't get them back? Because under Obama, he couldn't get them back. They'd fly them in, and they'd put planes on the runways in these countries so you couldn't land the plane. They'd bring them back. And the generals told me, sir, we can't bring them back. The countries won't accept MS-13 gang members. They won't accept them. And I said, really, how much do we pay these various countries in
What?
terms of economic aid, which is also somewhat ridiculous? And the answer was $750 million. I said, good. Tell them they're in default. They're delinquent. We're not paying them anymore because they
That's
won't
not what
accept
Yeah,
their.
it's
And you know what
delinquent
happened?
means.
They all called me,
yeah,
every
yeah.
one of them. They said, we would be honored to take them back, sir. We would be honored. It was so easy. But it's one of those things. And we got them back. We took in so many, the MS-13 is probably
Yeah.
the worst gangs in the world. They're the most vicious, violent. We took them out of here by the thousands and got them out of here. And their countries took them back. And because I said, you're not getting any more economic aid. And once I said that, they were nice. They wouldn't take them back for
Yeah,
Obama. They
yeah.
wouldn't take them back for anybody.
Oh, they've been
And now
wrapping
we have
this
a
up for
problem because we
15
have this guy,
minutes.
and they don't take him back anymore with Biden because they don't respect him.
Yeah, yeah. It's just gotta be done. We just can't have whether they're citizens or not citizens. We can't have because they won't prosecute citizens either. Not just illegals. So that if it's you can't have
Listeners
violent
keep falling.
repeat violent offenders that are not that don't get incarcerated.
That's right.
Because they will obviously by definition continue to uh, to hurt people. And I think where part of this comes from is that there's um, and I do sort of consider myself liberal in some ways. I mean, it's just that you want to have
What ways?
empathy for
Right.
people. Obviously, you want to have empathy for people. I totally
Like
agree with that.
like your
You want to
daughter,
have
Elon?
empathy, but you also have to have empathy for the victims of the criminals. And if you just have empathy for the criminals, it's actually shallow empathy. It's not real. You're not thinking. You're one layer deep empathy. You got to say like, what if you don't incarcerate this person? Who are they going to uh, hurt? Who are they might kill someone. They might rape someone. If you don't incarcerate them, you have to have
Oh my
empathy
fucking god.
for the victims. And there's a lack of empathy for the victims of the criminals, and too much empathy for the criminals. It doesn't make sense. That's why you want to have deep empathy for society as a whole, not shallow empathy for
That's right.
criminals.
And we have to give our police officers the dignity and the respect that they deserve. And we have to let them do their job. They can do a great job, but we have to let them do their job. And if we don't do that, it's going to all disappear. There's never been a society like this where you're allowed to do anything you want and nothing happens. And I'm talking about violent crime. And it's going to get more violent because these are really, really violent people. And we're going to get them out of our country and we're going to get them back to because they were sent here by the presidents and by the various people that run those countries. And I know every one of those guys. And they're smart people and they're streetwise people. And they really think that the USA is stupid. They think we're run by stupid people, and they happen to be right. But when I was there, we had no problem. We got them out. We took out thousands of MS-13 gang members. We brought them back. And now, again, it's the same old story. We don't do it. And they actually gave them a big increase in aid. They raised it up to billions of dollars, and they get nothing for it. So, I hope everybody's going to vote for Trump, and we're going to get this country.
Okay, Trump is
Yeah.
And I
trying
didn't
to
need
wrap
this.
it
I'm
up,
like,
I think.
I didn't need this. I had a very nice
Yeah.
life. I didn't need to go
Yeah,
through
yeah.
court
Okay,
systems
here we
and
go.
go through all the other stuff and run
Okay,
at the
which
same
one?
time. I have to run. I have to go through fake trials with, in
Okay,
some
which one?
cases, corrupt
Which one?
judges, totally corrupt judges. I didn't need it. I had a nice life. I have great locations. I
Which
have
one?
beautiful oceans that I have places. This was, but I felt it was important. And if I had to do it over again, you probably think I'm crazy for doing it, actually. But if I had to do it over again, I would have done it over again because this is so much more important than me or my life. We're going to save this country. This country is going down. And these people are bad people that we're running against, and they're liars. They make statements. They do things that are so bad. They say they're going to make a strong border. They say they've been great on the border, and they've been the worst in history. They say they're
Yeah,
going to
it's
stop
horrible. Like
crime.
the
And
facts speak for themselves. The
it's so
facts
incredible.
speak for themselves. Like
Trump's trying to do
it's
his
a point
stump to
where people
finish
can't
up,
even
and
bother
Elon just
reporting crime in a lot
interrupted.
of
That's
cities
right.
because they know nothing is going to happen. Um, that's what I hear anecdotally from people all the time. So it's just my values. I'm just saying to people out there, like the things I think are important for the future is like we've got to have safe cities, we've got to have secure borders, we've got to have sensible spending, and we have
Wrap it
and
up.
we've got to have deregulation, and
Right.
so we can have a prosperous future. And then we want to have some exciting, sort of moonshot projects that people can get fired up
Say
about.
SpaceX.
And
Say
that's the
Robotaxi.
future I'm looking for. And I'm pro environment, but I'm not against. I'm not like I don't think we should vilify the oil and gas industry, because they're keeping civilization going right now. And but I
Yeah,
do think
and
we
Trump
want to
wants
make,
to end on his message, and that's
a
been a
reasonable
problem.
speed towards a sustainable energy economy. Those are my values, and I think, and
We've had
and
like 20 minutes
so
now of
I
them
mean
both
that's
wanting to get the last word, and it's gonna
why
drive
I'm
me
supporting you for president.
more
Well, I
upset than I am.
appreciate. We're going to give incentive to companies to come into our country, not to leave our country. We're going to be giving tremendous incentives. We
Please
want
end. Please
companies
stop
to build
talking.
here, not to build
Please
in other
stop talking.
locations. And we want to create jobs. And again, it's about the American dream. You don't hear about the American dream anymore, Elon. You don't hear. You're the
That was a
American
big
dream
thing
the
in his
truest sense,
2000
but you
book
don't hear
too.
about the
You watch
American
my
dream
video on
anymore.
that.
And you're going to hear about it. People, they need that incentive to go out and do it. And they're going to love their lives. I mean, they're going to look forward to getting up in the morning and going to a job that they love, not a job that they can't stand, or not any job at all, where they have no money, where they literally have no money, and then they end up with violence and lots of other problems. No, we're going to do some great things. And I learned a lot in the first. We had a great economy and all of that. We rebuilt the military. We did so much, but I also learned the best people. I learned the good people, the smart people, the dumb people, the people that can do things. The people, you learn. When I first came in, I tell people I was in Washington, D.C. only 17 times, according to the fake news media. I was in 17 times. I never stayed over. And you don't know people. You rely on other people to give you names, and then you realize the people you relied on weren't so good. Now, we had great people, but we also had some where I wouldn't have, used them had I known. Now I know everybody. And I think we're going to really turn things around fast. We have no choice. Otherwise, we're not going to have a country. And I really appreciate this. To me, it's been a lot of fun being with you. You're an amazing guy. You've done an incredible job and a great inspiration to people, a great inspiration. And I hope you keep going and just continue to do well. And we're going to have a big election coming up. And I think November 5th will be the most important day in the history of our country. I think that election will be the most important election. And I think it'll end up being maybe the most important day in the history of our country, because if we don't win, I just feel so sorry for everybody.
No, I think we're at a fork in the road of destiny of civilization. And,
Please shut the fuck up.
And I think we need to take the right path.
I'm gonna stab you with the fork of
I think,
destiny.
You're the right path. So I think that's what it comes down to.
Thank you very much, Elon. It's a great honor, and we'll do it again sometime. And it's been really fun, and I hope you got a lot of viewers. I hear you got a lot, but I hope you got I know you got a lot of them. So I appreciate it. I'll see you soon.
Cosmo.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, Trump
Thank
muted.
you, Elon. Thank you very much. Bye.
Okay, we are free. That was painful. That was awful. No more of that. My God. I am in pain. I am suffering greatly. We achieved maximum psychic damage, as the title promised, so I hope you all are satisfied. Those are two men who are far dumber than they think they are. And I think, if nothing else, tonight very clearly demonstrated that these men are not as smart as they think they are. So have a good night, everyone. Remember to vote not for Trump on November 5th.